Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Well, alrighty, big troops, another one of Clips, and it's your daily dose of your daily politics. If you like politics, for a set of the tits, well, what's your daily politics fix? Typically Monday to Friday, but maybe a Saturday and Sunday. About 9-10 o'clock in the morning, look at all the different talking holes. Very simple concept. Compare notes between all the talking holes on the internet. Now, Sky News has took its DVR ability away, so we'll go to them top of the hour to see what they're telling us to think about today. But we'll have a wee look at Reuters, TASS, BBC.
Right, police and protesters are clashing once again this morning in Georgia. Lawmakers in the former Eastern Bloc country are pushing through new Kremlin-style legislation which would limit civic and press freedoms.
German
Tens
Wave,
of thousands of people joined
French
the demonstrations
Frogs,
in the capital. Tbilisi,
Rupert Murdoch's dying Dangleberry,
from the protests.
Nigel Vadge's Dangleberry, Fox News, Rupert Murdoch's Dangleberry, I still believe.
Non-violent protests,
Check that
attacks
here
by
out now,
police
well.
snatch squads,
Wee man.
seizing demonstrators and beating them. This, say protesters, is the kind
Welcome
of
to
future
2024.
Russia wants for them, that they are fighting. Another camera captured the fate of the arrested behind police lines, beaten and
Right,
stomped
so you get the
on
idea,
repeatedly.
that's the concept.
Heavy-handed
There's a
policing more at
hole
home on the
up
streets
there.
of Moscow than a country that wants to join the European Union.
Now, noteworthy to me
Police
is
deployed
they're
not long
not going
after
to
dawn,
what's
drawn up
happening
and
in
ready to
Gaza,
move in.
Rafah, straight off
So
the
there are
bat.
thousands of protesters
Sky
here,
News
just after dawn outside
have
the
been
Parliament building.
less
They are being
liberal
ordered to
than the
disperse
BBC
by
and
the
other
police
outlets
here.
with leading
And
with
then
what's
up the
happening
street
in
here,
Gaza, you know.
a huge
At the
number of
moment,
police,
I think you could
most
put
of
it down to
masked, backed up
kind
and
of being an
water-gathered,
uncomfortable
ready
truth.
to move in if the crowd does not move on.
We saw it last year.
So again, this is Russia versus the West, people.
Now
Scratch beneath the circus, it isn't that hard. Then you look at protesters and they're out there dressed like Crusading Knights,
As these Ministry of Interior security forces swept in,
which makes sense for
protesters
Georgia, to be
tried to
honest.
hold their ground.
But if you've got people out there dressed like Crusading Knights, flying Ukrainian flags and European Union flags, it's not really that hard to maybe figure out maybe it's kind of side or who's mobilised these protesters, or who's got a dog in the fight to maybe protest, to mobilise these protesters.
To clear the area around the Parliament.
A standoff followed, police controlling some of the ground surrounding the Parliament, protesters the rest.
Are they going to use the exact same tactics as Maidan to ramrod the Russian influence out, get the
They are
European
determined to thwart a law they
best
say is
influence in?
pro-Russian and the beginning of the end for freedom in Georgia. The country's future and political heart and soul are at stake. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News.
From the river to the sea, from the river to the sea,
Given what's
Palestine will be
happening
free.
in Georgia and
Jail
Ukraine,
them!
which we'll
Free
talk about
them!
shortly,
They hate us
it's
for
the
our
timely ruling
freedoms.
from the Prime Minister this morning. With an election looming, he'll today argue it's the Conservatives who are best placed to lead the country through what he says are dangerous times ahead. Mari has this report.
Oh my God, trying to scare
Two
you.
foreign conflicts having a significant impact on Britain's
Foreign
domestic
conflicts, there's
politics.
nothing foreign about it, man.
Questions
Britain's
over
body
funding
in
to
this shit.
Ukraine as it faces another major offensive.
Right.
And the fallout from Israel's assault on Gaza, sparking protests in British cities. Today, the Prime Minister will say the next few years will be the most dangerous the country has
Okay,
ever
so the BBC are
faced.
leading with
Billed as a major
probably
speech
one of
by
the
Downing
most
Street, he will point to the
interesting,
general
important
election
stories
and
in the
position
whole
his government as the
world
team
right now.
to lead the country through it.
Sky
I
News.
think you've got a very clear choice opening up, and that's what happens as you get to the end of a parliament. It stops being a referendum on the
That's
government,
what happens.
and it starts being a choice between two teams. And you've got a choice now where you can do one team, the blue team.
You
with a
nailed
very
it,
clear
Cameron.
plan to secure
Choose
Britain's
your
future.
fucking
A
slaver.
nation at a crossroads with a
Citizens.
choice to make. The Prime Minister will point to the recent pledge to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, and the ever-present looming threat of China.
Oh, China!
Experts
They
point
hacked
out that
us!
the world has
They
become
fucking
a more
Chinese hacked
dangerous
us the other week.
place. The question for
bastards.
voters will be whether they trust Rishi Sunak or Sir Keir Starmer to navigate this uncertain future.
The government
Mari Aurora,
has
Sky
dog
News.
in the fight, especially when you know the end game is total
has
erosion of everyone's right. It's one big
for us,
thing.
including a report that's coming out about now,
Right.
actually.
Yes, yes, in the next few minutes we're expecting to be published. This is a
Yeah.
landmark report on how to
Yeah.
improve Britain's maternity service. It's just been published.
My
Our
lord!
team currently
3
working
stories
through
in
the
and they've
details
no
analysing.
touching
We'll
on
bring
what's
you more on
happening in
that a
Gaza.
moment, but in the meantime...
Alright, Rupert, oh that's the Rupert Murdoch, that's Comcast. Sorry, I
I
keep
guess
making that mistake.
there is no area of my life that was untouched by it, is the easiest way to start.
In 2011,
And not only
Sarah
that, they
suffered
distract
a
you with
serious
dead
birth
babies.
tear.
Oh my
It was missed by
lord,
doctors
it's the
for more
women
than a
and the
year
children.
and led to complications.
I was in a lot of pain.
Fuck
a
the
lot
ones
of
that are
time.
dying in
Obviously
Gaza.
things had
We'll just
healed
ignore
by
that, innit?
themselves in a way that they shouldn't have done. So
I'm going to roll with the
urgency,
Sky News
not
because
being
it
able to
doesn't have the
hold in,
DVR
go to the
ability.
loo.
No, because it's my
So
favourite.
that sort of physical side was pretty horrendous.
Just
also
do that.
the psychological
Well,
side as well. I was
yeah.
diagnosed with PTSD, and I know a lot of people say, well, only soldiers get that.
After her injury, Sarah left her career in law to try and change the law, becoming a campaigner who submitted and reviewed evidence for the first parliamentary inquiry into birth trauma. Each year, around 30,000
Come on,
women will
fuck.
suffer a
Here's
negative
a clue,
experience
people. Here's
before,
an
during,
absolute
or
clue.
after delivery.
Believe it or
Despite
not,
this,
some say it's a
the trauma
conspiracy
inquiry
theory,
found that their
but
voices are
women have been
also
having
heard.
birth
It now hopes
since...
its recommendations will help to
Let me see, I'm
improve the
sure there's
quality
some
of care.
fossils
But for
somewhere.
this to happen, some say inequalities need to be
Huh?
addressed.
When
With
did
Black
women's...
and Asian women more likely to experience complications during birth and mental trauma after, many want to understand why.
As a black woman,
Is it
I
genetically?
see
Is it
myself and other
genetics or
black
something?
women as stats, walking statistics.
What did they turn
I see our lives in danger.
birth into racist?
Isn't it horrifying?
What are the white
to be-
doctors just
as a
fucking
black
throwing the
woman,
black
I
man,
want
black
all of
babies
us
on the floor?
and all our allies
me.
to be able to shout on top of the roof and say, okay, this has to stop.
Aye, let's save black babies.
highlight gaps in
What the
care.
fucking shit is this?
And is being helped by Sandra, who began advocating for women following trauma during her first 2 pregnancies and recently gave birth
Is there no
again.
are black dudes no genetically more
concerns were dismissed, and I was
dispossessed, disposed to getting
being induced, and that added
to my what do you call that? Colon cancer.
a lot more work
Shit,
to be
the
done.
kind
from
of
practitioners
ball cancer
working on
kind of
the
shit you
ground,
get.
But also those who are supposed to be setting targets.
That's up your arse, man. What the fuck? Anyway, that fucking up your arse cancer that guys get. Genetically,
It's now up to government
black
to
dudes
decide
are more likely to get
when
that.
targets
Is
will be
this
set
a genetic
to
thing or
bring
something?
power
Or
values.
are they saying that doctors are just like
Well, Women's
treating
Health Minister
black
Maria
babies the
Caulfield
fucking
told this
worse than
programme this
white
morning that
ones?
more work is being done to address the challenges women face during labour and delivery.
And is there an apology for those affected?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I recognise
Lord.
as the Women's Health Minister the
This is what you call like junk news. They're just fucking filling your head with pish. What about the genocide? Is this meant to be international fucking news? I'm sorry. Here's the thing, right? See the UK population? It's kind of 50-50. So see right now, you're fucking kind of talking to only half the population, right? Actually, this might, well, it affects everybody. Right. Anyway, what I mean is, how the hell are they burying Gaza and Rafah under this pish in the news cycle? I don't know, when I woke up this morning, I was like, I can't wait to hear the news and see what's happening with women's vaginas.
Foreign interference. The Met Police says they were charged under the Act. Scotland Yard says it's not related
The
to the case
Chinas!
involving
These
Russia.
fucking Chinas.
They'll appear at Westminster Magistrates Court
Fucking
later
tell
today.
you.
We're following that story throughout the course of the morning and we'll bring you all the updates.
And of course, don't look into what's actually going on in Hong Kong.
A number of broadcasters have written to the government raising concerns about the BBC's plans to introduce adverts around its podcasts. Sky, ITV, Global and Gary Lineker's Goalhanger podcasts are among the organisations who've written to the Culture Secretary. They say BBC advertising would wreck the current model under which the corporation is guaranteed public funding. Scotland's most
Bye-bye,
senior police officer
BBC.
has told Sky News that the investigation into the SNP's finances is moving on and a file will be handed to prosecutors within weeks. Nicola Sturgeon's husband, the former SNP chief executive Peter
Was
Murrell, has been
arrested.
charged in connection with the embezzlement of party funds. Our Scotland correspondent, Gillis, has been speaking to the chief constable of Police Scotland.
Don't you just love politicians? Here's a good version of PoliTITS, you know? People that you think walks on water, parts the fucking sea, has fucking virgin births. They're as big as scumfucks as the rest of us, while sitting in their ivory tower, running Govan Hill into a shithole so our pals can buy scumbag fucking slums for cheap as fuck, and drive the fucking place into a fucking slum, demanding government investment. That's the scams, folks.
This has been going on for years.
It's a live investigation, complex investigation, and the matters it's been progressed, and we expect the report to go to the Crown Office.
Yes, for Rule Britannia.
Police Scotland has decided there is enough evidence to charge Peter Murrell, but it will ultimately be up to the prosecution service, known as the Crown, to determine whether to go to court.
We're in a big general
Known as the
election
Crown.
year. There's politics involved here. That's got to be something that's front and centre of your mind and the force's mind. Is that fair?
We've investigated allegations. That's moving on. We have very skilled, professional, objective individuals working.
Rule Britannia, motherfuckers. Bury this SNP mob once and for all.
The former First Minister was released without charge pending further inquiries. Last week she told Sky News she had not spoken to police recently.
In a matter of weeks.
In a matter of weeks. On one individual or a number of individuals.
I'm not going to say any more on it.
Jo Farrell runs the biggest police force outside of the Met.
And what's the capacity of these premises?
She knows fine well
this
is a case.
Politicians being corrupt. That's more newsworthy than the genocide that's currently getting live streamed inside Gaza.
War in Ukraine now, and the country's military chief says forces are doing all they can to hold the line in Kharkiv.
Yep, that means they're
following
fucking getting
Russia's
beat.
surprise assault on the eastern region.
Yeah, surprise! We're at war. We're attacking you.
Change to his cabinet. We'll cross to Moscow in a moment, but first the latest from our security and defence editor Deborah Haynes, who's in Kharkiv.
We were told by the governor, who we interviewed yesterday, that Russia is assaulting from
Hey,
multiple
so
different positions.
15 minutes
There's a
into
town
Sky
called
News.
Bogchansk,
15
which is
minutes.
about just over 3 miles from the
Gaza,
border.
not
We went there on Friday,
not a
hours
whisper.
after this.
Are they going to be able to do their whole
significant
half-hour
started,
bullshit
and even then,
without
the
a
sound
word
of the
on
battle
Gaza?
was getting
They
closer.
can't ignore
We
it.
saw,
They've
we
done
were
their
with a team
best.
that helped evacuate an elderly woman who was very confused and scared. Everybody I spoke to said that the
You're
bombardment
speaking
that
Ukrainian,
happened
I
overnight
can't
into
speak
Friday
Ukrainian,
morning,
I
which
can speak
involved
Russian.
airstrikes, there were jets,
knows
there
what
was
accent that
artillery,
was, but I'm pretty
of
sure
course
it's Russian.
gunfire was the loudest and the most intense that they'd ever experienced in 2.5 years of war.
What
And
about the
ever
women
since
and children?
Friday, Russia has been edging closer.
They must have
chief
killed some
of the
women and
local
children.
police force, who
It's
we
not a
also
war.
spoke to yesterday,
Well, a news
he
it's not a
said
news
that
report
the Russians are now
without some
actually
dead
on the
babies and
outskirts
without
of
some
that town,
without saying
closing
Zionists
in. The inside
and
of the
dead
town
babies
has
and
been
bodies.
completely destroyed. Buildings are in ruins. There have been a number of civilians that have been killed, and Russia has seized a number of
all you
villages
do is really need to
around
change
that
the name
area,
of a few
and it's clearly
players,
intent
and
on
it could
trying
be
to
them
push
reporting
forward.
on the
Now,
Gaza
there has
war.
been
Buildings in ruins, demolished, dead babies,
Ukrainian
dead
soldier who's been
women,
fighting on the front line,
displacement.
Claimed was a lack of fortifications. But I
A wee bit
spoke
of editing.
to another
Another
soldier
blue
who's also
blue
involved in
screen
the fight,
backdrop,
who made
green
the
screen
point that
backdrop.
that zone
Remember when it was
around
blue
the
screen?
border has been a grey
And then
zone
fucking
ever
Fenians
since
won the league.
Russia was pushed
And then they
out
turned
of
it to
Kharkiv
green
region
screen.
by a Ukrainian counter-offensive
Bigotry, I
in
tell you.
autumn 2022,
Bigotry.
and that it would have been impossible to set any kind of concrete fortifications along that line because it was being subject to a
And
lot
if you've
of
just
Russian
joined,
artillery
I'm not
fire.
sticking with Sky
The
News
big
because
test is going
I'm a
to
big
be
fan of it
how
because they've took
Ukrainian
away
forces manage
the
whether they can
DVR
manage
ability,
to stop
so you can't
a
pause it,
full-blown
rewind,
assault
all that jazz.
onto, for
So I just want to get their
example,
news
Kharkiv
cycle
City.
and then go round the other ones. So far,
Ivor
they've
joining
not
us
touched
now
on
from
Israel
Moscow,
at all.
reshuffling the cabinet, President
That is
Putin. What's going on?
unfucking believing.
Believable?
Yes, Kay, that's right. Late last night there was a dramatic, surprising reshuffle of the cabinet. By law, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has to appoint a new government at the start of a new presidential term, which
by law, I thought he was a dictator.
A reshuffle and a shake-up quite like this. Two very senior figures in the leadership structure of Russia's government at the moment, particularly on its war footing. Sergei Shoigu and Nikolai Patrushev have been released.
So by law, he had to do this, but let's make it a big, massive story.
Security chief, both are long-time Putin aides and allies. Both have been in their posts a long time, and this comes as Russia has the upper hand on the battlefield. So that's why it's so surprising. So why on earth did Putin do this? It's being painted by the Kremlin as them wanting to have a tighter control on the purse strings at the Ministry of Defense. Under Sergei Shoigu, here he is. There's a perception that they have not been particularly frugal. Defence spending has ballooned 6.6% of GDP right now, and that's ballooned over the course of the war. So they want to get a tighter control over that. There's also allegations of corruption there. They want to correct that perception, but there's also a practical
from Nicola Sturgeon
they want
to Russia. And remember, up here, it is part and parcel of politics in Russia. Oh, they're demons. Russia's a dictator. Send them up in the gulags.
Andrei Belousov, the technocrat, they want to make sure the military-industrial complex in Russia is operating as efficiently as possible, because right now everything is geared towards the military.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, DJ. He came out and said Putin by law has to do this, and then reports that he's doing it and tries to spin it into something's really mad, weird going on here.
One person who is truly irreplaceable, that's the person at the top, Vladimir Putin himself.
Okay, for now, Ivor, thank you. Politics at home now. Mari is here.
Hold on, did they not just hold an election? You can argue how fraudulent it is or isn't, but they just held an election.
From the Conservatives to the Labour Party. We had Sir Chris Bryant on this morning, and this was his take.
I would have thought that if what Robert Buckland has said today, namely that he says that she lobbied him, if that is true, he should have told our committee. So if anybody should be being investigated by the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, and he's perfectly independent, it's up to him to decide, frankly, it should be Robert Buckland.
Whew, that's backfired quickly.
It has, hasn't it? It's really intriguing how this is all starting to unfold. So originally, the defection was seen as, you know, a win for Labour, painful for the Conservatives, especially after they'd had one 11 days before from Dan Poulter. Then the Tories started to try and turn it on Labour and say, actually, it reflects on Labour's judgment. They don't stand for anything. They'll take anybody. And essentially, you know, she's a very right-wing MP, so why would they want her? Now Labour trying to turn it back.
The Tories trying to turn it back on Labour with the help of fucking Sky News. What the fuck are you doing, you fucking rat bastards? That's what 20 minutes into news, not one word of what's happening in Rafah. Scum fucks. Just ignore it, man. Out of sight, out of fucking mind. People in Sky News land who get their news from there and only there because they like the cut of the jib of some of their talking heads, just think fucking Gaza's disappeared. That's just like Syria. Remember Syria just disappeared, poof, overnight. All the shit that was happening. Then you get these fucking, the token black scary spice here, fucking right-winger politics, politics. Right down our fucking throat. This is what the Tories are trying to do. What the fuck are you trying to do, you arsehole? Be fair and independent? I don't think so.
And she also explained how she felt it was damaging for politics as a whole when it comes to people's faith in politicians.
OK, for now, thank you. Thanks very much. Still to come on The Breakfast Show for you here on Sky News. We debate Israel's inclusion in the Eurovision Song Contest over the weekend. And your fairy friends doing funny things. We'll have a look at the best pet comedy photos coming next.
Right. That is a fucking piss take. That's their whole half-hour news. That's going to be their news cycle.
Tom Stoltman
is going to be their fucking news cycle. That's unfucking-believable. Gaza, Rafah, Israel, poof. Up a bit. Up a bit, down a bit, left a bit, right a bit, and it's gone. Don't you just love it, man? Right, let's see what Al Jazeera are saying to it, because they're going to now get your pints of vodka ready and play the Zionist. Every time they say Zionist or Zionism, need to drink. Every time you see a dead baby, They're a dead Bobby. What, Bobby? Dead Bobby. A dead body. You take a drink. Now remember, this is gallows humour. I made a video talking about my dead baby and body game, and I don't think people got the joke. I think that's what was being serious. They don't see the fucking, how ironic I'm trying to be. I don't know. Just pointing out the fucking misery, man, that these news programmes fucking constantly like to have going.
In northern Gaza, Israeli forces move deeper into the Jabalia refugee camp.
Sky just ignoring this. That is fucking unbelievable. I mean, not even a wee 5-minute fucking segment.
From a headquarters in Doha, I'm Daddy.
Today in Gaza, more deeds. Moving on, here's some funny animal pictures.
As a controversial foreign influence bill moves a step closer to becoming law. Plus, Russia's President Vladimir Putin replaces his defense minister in a surprise cabinet reshuffle.
Oh, it's because it's a surprise fucking me. It's a surprise attack. Surprise cabinet shuffle. Surprise! Indian elections. Let me touch on that. Sudan wishes it gets the PR Gaza does. I think that's been turned into a dust bowl with shithole successfully in it, mate.
Israeli planes hit targets in both the north and south of the Gaza Strip. This as Palestinian fighters say that they're engaged in running battles with Israeli troops east of the Jabalia refugee camp. Meanwhile, Palestinians continue to flee the latest conflict zones. The UN's latest estimate is that more than 360,000 people have been displaced. Crucial aid and supplies into Gaza has been blocked by Israel, while almost all hospitals are close to collapse. We have our correspondent Tara Abu Azzoum. Tara is joining us from Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. Speaking of hospitals, Tara, we're now hearing that Israeli forces have told the staff at the Kuwaiti hospital to evacuate. What are you hearing?
The Kuwaiti? Hold on.
Well, Darren, now Al-Kuwaiti hospital first is located in the central area of Rafah. Now, this area has been receiving different evacuation orders for all residential houses in such area in order to flee and to no longer remain in such position. So I've been speaking to a number of medics there who have been confirming to me that they have received different calls from the Israeli officers. They have been informed to flee the hospital. Doctors have replied to the request of the Israeli officers saying that we are medical teams, we are doing our humanitarian job on the ground, while the officer has responded saying that the hospital will not be a safe place, so it's important for you to leave. And that what happened between one of the medics alongside with the one of the Israeli soldiers who have been phone calling all the doctors there, ordering them to flee. So the situation in Al-Kuwaiti hospital now sounds critically dire, but till now they did not call the director of the hospital in order to completely flee. They have been making different calls for the medics themselves. So the situation there is moving incredibly fast, as the Al-Kuwaiti hospital is the only hospital that is providing now medical treatment for Palestinians who are arriving injured to the in Rafah district. So people there and medics are afraid of the repetition of the scenario of a Shifa hospital, as the Rafah will be completely collapsed, completely medically collapsed, with no any kind of hospitals providing medical treatment for injured people. And we need to remember that there are still people in Rafah, in the western portion of the city, who did not till now receive any kind of warning to flee. So eastern portion, the middle areas, are receiving orders from the Israeli military to escape from the area and heading to Al-Mawasi in the western portion of Rafah city, alongside to Deir al-Balah area.
Tariq, what about the fighting on the ground and what's happening there? Because according to the Israelis, they're now saying that 50 soldiers, there have been casualties rather amongst 50 soldiers, and that's in the past 24 hours. So what's going on in the ground, and particularly in the north in the Jabalia refugee camp?
Homegrown spuds.
Well, fierce battles are raging in both Jabalia and in eastern areas of Rafah as the military is trying to advance and moving deeper into the main urban areas of the cities. We could clearly see how the furious battles and violent confrontations between Hamas fighters and the Israeli soldiers in both Rafah and Jabalia. We saw videos for military tanks being hit, for even residential houses being targeted, and casualties and victims between both parts continue to fall on hourly basis. We have been speaking to eyewitnesses in Jabalia refugee camp. They have confirmed that emergency workers managed to recover 20 Palestinians who were completely killed in previous airstrikes on the camp, as the battles are still ongoing till this very moment. And they have been describing that hundreds of families are fleeing from Jabalia to the western side of the Gaza city, alongside in around.
They're just going to kind of document all the death and destruction. I think that's kind of self-evident.
Both in Jabalia and Rafah, looming famine on Jabalia.
In Gaza, he says that, and he also said Israel, which they talk.
The Secretary of State has been doing the talk show circuit, basically defending his department's memorandum to Congress, in which it was supposed to decide whether or not Israel was contravening international humanitarian law with
that guy was in a wheelchair and was in charge of the X-Men.
Well, the report basically concluded maybe not possible to be absolutely definite. Now, this report has drawn a lot of criticism, also from some Democratic members of Congress. The Secretary of State, though, also speaking about President Biden's red line. President Biden referred to this when he was discussing a potential Israeli threat of an invasion.
That just threw me because he said
saying
Kuwait, and I was like, that rings a bell.
Now, the Secretary of State was asked about that on one of the talk shows.
We have been holding back, and we're in active conversations with Israel about the provision of heavy or high payload weapons,
and yet so
large bombs, because of the concern that we have
about the
effect these weapons can have when they're used in a dense urban environment, like Rafah.
Even read
we're discussing that with Israel right now. Second, what the president said is that if Israel goes in with a major military operation,
maybe if they dance on one leg,
systems that we will
hop and cluck like a chicken,
that would aid that effort, because it's something that we do not want to be part of, given the damage that it would do to civilians, and again, not to achieve a durable, lasting, effective result for Israel and for its security. That's what the president said. We've said that in conversations with our Israeli partners. The results that we've seen in terms of the horrible loss of life of innocent civilians, it's reasonable to assess, as we say in the report, that there are instances where they've acted inconsistent with their obligations under international humanitarian law. Those investigations continue, both by us and by Israel.
Well, a single shipment of those 2,000-pound precision bombs has been put on hold. It is still on hold pending review. However, all other scheduled weapon shipments to Israel are going ahead. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Israeli forces have arrested at least 14 Palestinians during raids in the occupied West Bank. Soldiers stormed several homes near the city of Qalqilia. They also launched sonic weapons.
Imagine somebody coming in, right, taking over your area, the
forces
gap,
have stepped up
and
raids
then,
and
like,
arresting
you for
West Bank
fighting
since
back.
the war on Gaza began in October.
You know? So,
And earlier this month, an Israeli soldier shot an 8-year-old Palestinian in the neck. The boy was playing outside with his cousin in a refugee camp in the Jordan Valley. He was detained, then dumped at an Israeli hospital. And days later, his family received medical bills of more than $13,000. Zain Basravi reports from Ramallah.
Where it was the woods of the Knights Templar, and right over there got the hill.
I was playing on a scooter with my cousin, he says. We were on our way home when we saw an Israeli jeep driving towards us, so we started running. It is an instinct every Palestinian child knows well. Soldiers began shooting. Jude was hit in the neck and fell.
Right.
He says in that
That's
moment,
well worthy a
he
drink.
felt very far from home at West Bank. Before it was
Whenever they'd
You
administer
can take a
AK,
drink with that one.
move his left
$13,000 Israeli. Even did my.
The bill is so like this of the
I thank God he's okay.
Oh, there's an
Hopefully
Arsenal
he'll get
top
better.
as well. Tickle the
Hopefully
ball.
he'll
Oh!
see a happy life,
Tickle
a
the
life
ball.
he chooses for himself. I hope he'll have a future. I hope he lives his childhood.
See, wearing an
despite the
Arsenal
difficult
top's all good, man.
circumstances.
See, we're not.
When
See,
asked
we're not
if he
top
was
like this,
scared,
man.
he puts on a brave face.
It comes with.
He says he's looking forward to going home, having a shower.
People assume
and
so
seeing his
much about
grandparents.
you just by fucking seeing you, innit?
But he
And
says
last
he'll
Saturday,
never
when I
ride
went
a
to the
scooter
show,
again. A lesson
after we
every
got beat,
Palestinian child
there was a
live
fucking bunch of white
Final discussion of a controversial
white
foreign
van men,
influence bill.
pricks.
Opponents say the
Fucking
proposed law
drive
could be
by,
used to stifle
and of
dissent.
course,
Media and other organizations
fucking out the
that
window,
get 20% or more of their
fucking
funding from abroad would have to
Yeah,
register as
honest
agents
bastard,
of
no.
foreign influence. There were reports of at least
Bang,
20
bang, sorry.
arrests on Saturday. Dmitry Medvedenko has more.
I
on
knew
that
that I was
protest from
welcoming
the
a
Georgian
sensible
capital,
man.
Tbilisi.
Wouldn't he have wore it after a fucking
Why they were
getting,
here
getting a
specifically
defeat?
today is because Georgian Parliament Judicial Committee
Maybe
was
I
supposed
kinda
to
had
do
a wee jobby
reading
stick.
of this bill, the third reading, potentially the last one, before it's passed on to a vote. Now, normally these things last a couple of hours, but specifically in this case, it lasted under 2 minutes. The chairman of the Judicial Committee came in, asked the other members if there were any changes to the text that they want. They all said no, and he approved it. Like Georgian media have said, it took
How it used to get done back in the day, wasn't it,
64
mate?
seconds to be done. Now, people here say
Dudes used to go fucking down the boozer. Come and get me when she's done.
that this is a geek diplomat. What do you make of the fact into a vote tomorrow?
Yeah, like, geopolitically speaking, they're literally wearing, they've literally got the flags on their masts and waving them. The only flag I haven't seen is a Russian one, but they're in the fight, man. The Russian Fed. You just need to go and look at a map to understand why.
Flash floods in northern Afghanistan have killed.
Afghanistan and Brazil have been wrapping up that HARP machine.
Been down across in southern
Algeria.
Sky News, what the fuck?
This is Turkey.
Yes,
Turkey is the first
the
country
Prime
in the
Minister
world
is
to
expected to
develop
say that Britain is
comprehensive
safer
national
under the Conservatives in a speech later today. Rishi Sunak will seek to
Ooh.
convince voters that he's the best leader to see Britain through some of the most dangerous years.
Where's with all these people with small
Scuffles in
mind
Georgia, where
syndrome?
police have sought to break up an all-night sit-in outside the country's parliament.
Those dudes, man, those don't look at those guys all masked up in the mix here, doing the damage, man. Organised, staying together, protecting each other, man. They look like grassroots protesters to me. I don't know about you.
Recommendations for improvements is the creation of maternity commissioner report.
How the fuck? Top stories, Gaza,
And it's been a successful night for Britain.
and they're completely just fucking ignoring it. It's just ignored. It's just being ignored. Off the news cycle, here's a dude in a dress.
Of the National Jewish Assembly. Why did you boycott it? You had an 800 ticket event that you cancelled.
Yeah, I decided to join the boycott over Israel's inclusion in the competition, which was a call that was led by the BDS movement over what we're seeing in Palestine right now. There's precedent for countries being kicked out of Eurovision as a result of their behavior. We saw Russia excluded in 2022. It felt like a double standard that Israel was allowed to compete this year.
I get the drag thing, right? The drag thing with Lily Savage and stuff, man. It's kind of meant to be a caricature.
See that beloved institution be used to provide cover.
I get the drag
for
thing. It's
Israel's
meant to
actions.
be a caricature, right?
What we're seeing in
But
Israel
the people
at the
that
moment
dress
is
like
war, quite
a
frankly.
woman
You can't really
to
compare
be
it
like
with
a
the
woman, but they don't look like a
situation, because
woman.
Russia
Do you
actually
get me? It
attacked
looks like a
Ukraine.
clown.
On the 7th of October,
It'd be like if a woman wanted to dress like a dude and they came in like a blow up fucking a blow up muscle suit and like fucking like a beard stuck on like for fucking Team America.
Well, you know, I would.
Oh,
agree
it's
with
one of
Gary
the
that
funniest
situations
bits in
aren't
a
exactly
film ever.
comparable. That said,
Yeah,
I think
the
what we're
fuck is
seeing in
this
Palestine
protest?
is.
Oh lordy, lordy, lord! Right, that's Sky News for you people. That's what Comcast is telling you to think about today. Shh. Right, let's see what the BBCs are saying about the old Israel. At least they're talking about it straight
An
off the
all-out
bat.
Israeli attack on the Gaza city of Rafah will provoke anarchy without eliminating Hamas, a warning from Antony Blinken. This is the scene live in Jerusalem, where Israel marks its Memorial Day for fallen soldiers and victims of attacks as the war in Gaza rages on. Riot police in the Georgian capital of Tbilisi move in to clear thousands demonstrating through the night against a controversial vote. Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu is out as Vladimir Putin replaces him in a rare cabinet shake-up. New evidence that the British government was warned by its own staff in the US about the risk of HIV from contaminated blood in the early 1980s.
I'm shot!
Hello, I'm Lauren Taylor. Israel is marking Memorial Day, which honours its war dead as its offensive in Gaza continues. Well, ceremonies are getting underway as we speak. Right now, sirens are sounding across the country to honour fallen soldiers and victims of terror attacks. And we're not playing that sound to you because of broadcasting restrictions in the US. Well, this year, Israelis are also commemorating the more than 1,000 victims of the Hamas attack on October the 7th, which triggered the current
Not playing
war.
that to you because of broadcast restrictions in the US.
To avoid an all-out attack on the city of Rafah, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is at this ceremony at the moment. This is a ceremony at Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, and he will be also attending another event in memory of victims of terror at 1 p.m. local time. Other ministers, as you can see, they're also attending ceremonies around the country.
From Tel Aviv.
And most of these ceremonies, people have been urged to leave politics out of it, despite the big divisions within Israel about the conduct of the war in Gaza and the retrieval of
the genesis,
the hostages.
That I know of this war.
We talked about Rafah
It's
a moment
kind
ago.
of historically
The US Secretary of State Antony
documentable.
Blinken has warned that an action
sort of
there,
shit after World
or an
War
all-out
II.
assault there, would provoke anarchy without eliminating Hamas. It was his
the
latest
signatures
attempt
on
to deter
bits of
Israel from
paper.
carrying out a ground assault.
Make
bombardment in the
it
eastern parts of
legal to
Rafah has
do what
already
the state
displaced
Israel's
tens of
done.
thousands of Palestinians.
Without question.
As we look at Rafah, they may go in and have some.
America
initial
has no
success,
power
but-
anymore, man.
But
Their
potentially
red
it's incredibly
lines
high cost,
are no longer
to
red
civilians,
lines.
but one that is not
Obama's
durable,
red
one
line
that's
in
not
Syria,
sustainable.
Russia's like
and
that.
they will be left holding the bag on an enduring
Okay.
insurgency because a lot of armed Hamas will be left,
And,
no matter what they do in Rafah.
the
Or
lines
if they
that
leave and
constantly
get out of
drew
Gaza, as we believe
to
they need to
nut
do,
job
then you're
shows
going to
you
have a
that
vacuum,
whoever
and a
the
vacuum that's likely to be filled by chaos, by
people
anarchy,
that are in
and
the loop
ultimately
of
by
the
Hamas
decision-making
again.
process
So
as
we've
to
been
what's
working for
happening.
many weeks
These people aren't there.
on developing credible
They're not
plans
at. Well,
for
in fact,
security,
well,
for governance, for
I
rebuilding.
don't even think they
we haven't
think
seen
it.
that
They're
come
at.
from Israel. We've been
The
working
PR
with Arab
department.
countries and others on that plan. We need to see that too. We have the same objective as Israel. We want to make sure that Hamas cannot
Genocide.
govern
Good
Gaza again.
stuff.
We want to make sure it's demilitarized. We want to make sure that Israel gets its leaders. That's what we're determined to do. We have a different way, and we think a more effective, durable way of getting that done. We remain in conversation with Israel about exactly that.
Our Middle East Bureau Chief Joe Floto joins me now, and with the remarks from Antony Blinken there, highlighting some of the divisions about the conduct of Israel's war in Gaza, is that something that has been left aside during this Memorial Day, or has it bubbled up under the surface?
Well, I think in the run-up to today, it's certainly come out to the surface. We've had senior military officials, albeit anonymously, briefing the Israeli media about their dissatisfaction, or their concern, rather, that there isn't a proper
this was
political
35 minutes
strategy
ago.
for how to end this war, and that, in other words, in order to defeat Hamas, you have to replace Hamas. And that's something we haven't seen set out in detail by the Israeli Prime Minister. But you're right, today, just a couple of minutes ago, we've had sirens
In order
sounding
to
across the whole of
defeat
Israel,
Hamas,
as the country marks its Memorial
you
Day,
have to genocide the
remembering those who died in all of
Palestinians.
Israel's
Because
wars,
that
but
is where
in particular
the
those who've died
majority,
since October
I'm
the
led
7th,
to
and that
believe,
is a
Hamas's
price
fighters,
that Israelis
volunteers
are
come
continuing
from.
to pay because
Because
the
it's very
military
easy to get
offensive
people to volunteer
carries on.
to kill
More soldiers
somebody
are dying, and of
that's
course
dropped bombs
there is
on their
concern
mum,
about the fate
dad,
of hostages
brother,
who remain
sister,
in Gaza. Now we think
etc.,
more than 35
etc.
of those 130 odd people have been killed. How many of the remainder survive is a different question, but the anxiety of the families of those hostages is huge, palpable, and is often angry as they protest on Israel streets. But today, the mood is somber, it's reflective, but there is also concern about how long this war, which has lasted 220 days so far, how long it's going to carry on for.
And on that, I mean, the Israeli army appears to be having to go back into areas which it had originally said it had cleared, for instance, in northern Gaza. How difficult is that for the Israeli public to see that happening again, to see those areas being fought over again?
Well, I think this goes back into the divisions over what the strategy should be. So you're right, the IDF are in Jabalia, they're in what used to be a stronghold of Hamas, one that they thought they had cleared of Hamas gunmen months ago, but they're back in because, in their view, Hamas has regrouped in that area. And similarly, we saw in Zaytun, which is south of Gaza City, the IDF having to go in for the third time. Now, if you listen to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he wants to maintain Israel's ability to keep going into Gaza, to suppress any regrouping of Hamas at any point, even after a ceasefire. And that is something that obviously Hamas doesn't want, but there are increasing numbers within the military establishment here who think that's not a strategy for victory, it's a strategy for continuing this war forever.
And this is, for Israelis, particularly poignant, as you say, this year because of the October 7th attack. But it was interesting also that at the start of the ceremonies for Memorial Day, we heard from the Army's Chief of Staff saying he bore responsibility for the Army's failures on that day. That was it was interesting to hear that.
So we've
You're
had
gonna stiff up a lip, don't you know?
And the intelligence community here very publicly saying that they are responsible for the failings that led up to October the 7th. The big question is, at what point will Benjamin Netanyahu decide that he has to publicly shoulder any responsibility? Thus far, he's been very clear that he is focused on prosecuting the war. Lots of criticism from plenty of people in this country that he should, like the head of military intelligence, like the head of the internal security, and like the head of the army, say that he needs...
Oh, I just got a really good idea for a video, right? I was just thinking about, you know, there was Benjamin Nutjob once up at the United Nations with his big cartoon bomb, because people were too stupid to understand words. Recently, you had the Jew guy up at, the Israeli guy up at the United Nations with a shredder. You're just shredding the United Nations Constitution, some shit like that, because they thought people were too stupid. You know, you get this thing called mansplaining, or that was like a meme or a thing for a while, mansplaining. So you could make a video called Jewsplaining, when you get these supremacist Jews who think everybody's so fucking stupid, more or less fucking stupid than them. You know, like all these stupid students that are getting all sorts of qualifications in their universities. I've heard this exact language from Talk TV, GB News, granted. Stupid students that are protesting, they're just stupid. They're stupid. If they're not anti-Semitic, they're just stupid. Stupid anti-Semites, stupid idiots, stupid. That's the level it's got to. They either believe that themselves, or it's just like the defence mechanism of anybody that isn't on board with their shite is stupid or anti-Semitic.
To shoulder some responsibility.
Means nothing now. Means nothing.
Joe Floto, thank you very much indeed.
It's like all these windy lickers online have made the word paedophile mean meaningless.
Thanks very much.
Meaningless. It's just a general insult flung out there by the great
what's been going on
unwashed.
in Rafah itself because of your team on the ground. Tell us what you've been hearing.
Well, she looks like Jew McJustine.
What we've heard is that hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have fled from Rafah over the last several days, the last week or so, since Israel issued its unlawful evacuation orders.
Where's my bagels?
Reports we are hearing from our staff
Sounds like
is that they themselves are being displaced. We've had to evacuate and leave NRC facilities because they are in or close to the areas that
she does
Israel
sound
has
like the
called
accent.
on for
The
people to
one,
leave.
the Jewish
The
accent.
real question
I can
is,
do.
what will these people find
With
once
my
they
bagels
do
over
leave? And the reality is that there's no safe space in Gaza. The areas that they are being told to flee to, particularly the El Mawasi area, are overcrowded, unfit to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. These are basically barren strips of land with thousands and thousands of tents and makeshift shelters. I spoke to colleagues early last week who were telling me that the conditions in El Mawasi were incredibly overcrowded already, even without a huge influx of people.
Yeah.
Tents were so closely packed together, there was no space to install latrines, water points, or other sanitation services.
So on that, I mean, you talked about the conditions in El Mawasi. What can the Norwegian Refugee
Shit in the
Council
rubble.
do in terms of providing aid around that area, or
it's
before people get there?
laughably
What
tragic.
are you able to provide?
Well, we're trying to do our
spent
best.
years
We did manage to
pulling
have
my
a
hair out
shipment
over this
of
stuff,
aid
man.
come in last Saturday,
Getting
a week
upset
ago
about it.
Saturday,
And
that
ultimately,
we put in our
I,
warehouse, and
myself,
we've been working
personally,
over the last couple of days to be able to
powerless.
access that warehouse, which is now in one of the blocks.
So
that
it's
has
now
been
gallows
told
humour
to-
that I
to
use with this sort of
leave.
stuff, man.
And so we are working to get that aid and be able to safely transport
Right.
it where people are in need. But once those
And for more on the story, you can visit
The BBC don't
News
do
app or go
many,
to our
don't
website
do much in the
for
way
latest
of,
updates.
they don't do any Zionism. I don't even think they mention the word. They don't do
Secretary of State Anthony
dead
Blinken
bodies
has,
or babies
warned,
much.
I think we like to move on now to other news. Let's take you to
Yes,
Georgia now, where overnight protests in
yes,
Georgia have
yes,
continued
yes,
into the
yes,
morning in a last-ditch effort to prevent the passing of a controversial law. The bill requires organisations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as agents.
Oops! 20% of their funding from foreign government. Well, 20% of their funding from abroad. Abroad. What do you mean abroad? Foreign governments funding NGOs inside their country, and they're not even going to kick them out. They're just saying, declare yourself. You're a foreign agent. Why am I a foreign agent? See that big bag of cash you've got hanging out your back pocket? You go that for China, you go that for America, you go that for the UK. Look, you've got fucking croissants and baguettes hanging out your fucking beret. You know what I mean? That makes sense. That makes sense. No, when you're out there to try and paint it like big bad Russia come, and you know what? There's no doubt in my mind that Russia is trying to exert their influence inside Georgia. Just like NATO, stroke the West, the EU, if you want, is trying to exert their influence over there. And the people of Georgia are caught in the middle, all getting tuned to the moon.
Foreign influence or to face fines.
With their own brand of shite in their own country.
The bill requests organisations, as we were saying, receiving more than 20% of their funding to register as agents of foreign influence. The Western countries and Georgia's opposition have denounced it as authoritarian and Russian-inspired. But the country's Prime Minister vowed on Sunday to push ahead with the law. Let's speak to our South Caucasus
Russian agent.
correspondent.
Imagine wanting
Dimitri, who was there
NGOs in
overnight.
your country to
So tell us,
declare.
protests,
Not
still
if they
going
are
on
getting
and
funding from abroad, but only if they've got 20% or more of their funding from abroad. Right, so let's say, for example, all your funding from abroad. Right, so if there's somebody sitting in there, Mr. Nike, for example, goes into Georgia with a big bag of cash, gets his local Igor, windy licking idiot, Igor, Mr. Georgia, whatever. I don't know a Georgian name. Oh no, I do, man. I'm thinking of football players here. Kashvili. Right, you get your local Kashvili. Mr. McDonald's with big bags of cash gets his local Kashvili and starts fucking getting this guy, paying him hundreds of dough, man. This guy gets hundreds of influence, lots of hookers, lots of blow, lots of parties. Everybody fucking loves him, and then he starts lobbying the Georgian parliament to fucking make McDonald's, get McDonald's into their schools. You know what I mean? And then the Georgia parliament's like, well, hold on, Can we register this as like a kind of like you're getting your funding from McDonald's here, Mr. fucking Kishvili? I don't think you just want McDonald's in the schools to feed their poor school children. I think you're trying to turn them into fat bastard McDonald's junkies. No, you're a Russian! But ultimately, it's a tug of war between the EU/West and the Kremlin.
Is there any chance the government will change its mind?
Well, it looks increasingly unlikely, given that it took just 67 seconds for the
Gigi,
Legal
is your
Affairs
name
Committee
George or Georgie?
that held the third and final reading of this controversial law this morning to pass the third reading. You can see behind
Georgie
some
Kincladze,
protesters still
remember him,
remain
mate? He was
in
a
the
crack
street,
player,
and they're
Man City.
blocking this main
If I'm not right, if I'm not
thoroughfare
wrong.
here in Tbilisi
Might have
outside
played for a few other
Parliament.
ones. I
They're
think I can
sitting
remember
on
him
the
from
ground
Man
and
City.
holding their ground. They're waiting
Georgie Kincladze. If I remember right, he was one of those players that he might not turn up for every game, but the ones that he turned up, he was a fucking world beater, you know? If he could have turned that forum, that level of performance on, more often than not, he could have went to a far bigger team than he did at the time. If I remember right, Georgie Kincladze, because he was at Man City when they were shite.
More students.
I remember those
join the
days, man.
protest.
I remember
I was
those
just talking
days.
to one of the students from the medical university, and she says that they have about 6,000 students at the university.
City then Ajax? I can't remember him going to Ajax, mate, but it makes sense because he was that kind of. He was that kind of player, especially British football at the time he was about. It wasn't the fucking. No other players were wearing tights like they are nowadays.
That the government might hear their voices and withdraw this
back then,
controversial
man,
bill.
it was more fucking blood and snotters, wasn't it? Now it's all tights and tutus.
Well, what these people are worried about the most is, of
Like,
course,
come
that
on,
it would
man,
restrict
this is
with
how
that.
can you drag this story out?
Today,
Like, when are you gonna get a news fucking thing? You got something's happening in Georgia right now, man. It seems to be kind of east versus west, and they're both kind of tickling the balls of protest groups to get people out on the street. Then people can report. I bet you RT isn't touching that. Right, so 3 Hong Kong
Officers say this
Kongians.
operation is not connected to a recently reported
Top of the hour, I'm going to try and go and get
policing
RT.
investigation linked
Because I
to
guarantee,
Russia.
well, I don't guarantee, I would wonder if they're
Rest
touching
in
on the
Myanmar
Georgia
today.
shit.
Around the world and across the
Well-
UK, this is BBC News.
Yeah, this is a second deal. Have a stiff upper lip down to now. Ooh, I speak the Queen's English. Ooh, what's this
Rudolph,
now?
an economist and the Deputy Prime Minister. Russia editor
Ew.
Steve Rosenberg explained that
Yes, right, flux capacitor time. Remember when Trump got elected, it was all about, Russia's been meddling in the UK, in the American elections, Russia's been meddling in the American elections. In a sense, damn tooting through all their messaging in English on RT, the Truth for Industrial Complex, over in America before it all got shut down and stuff. They definitely affected the election by steering the debate, the narrative, the way their RT and all their useless idiots on the interwebs, me included, by the way, very much so back in the time, just blindly repeating RT's messaging without sort of thinking about what it actually is. Just loving it because it's telling you what you want to hear at the time because of the way you see the world at the time because you were body in the Truth for Industrial Complex. Well, this is the BBC doing the exact same shit. This is how Russia affected... That's how Russia affected the American election, and this is how the UK, BBC, Western press tries to affect the internal American Russian politics as well, you know? Like, I'm sitting here in the UK, I have no fucking interest in the internal goings on in Russian politics. To a certain degree I do, but just the run-of-the-mill shit, you know what I mean? Like, why the fuck is that getting reported to me? There's something else going on here. And I say obviously, like, first impressions and whatnot, it seems that it's just a way of kind of smearing Putin as like there's something wrong in paradise with Putin. It's kind of negative,
whoever,
you know?
The Russian government ministers are, whoever's sitting around that cabinet table, there is one
I'm
man,
call him a
one man
leprechaun,
alone
but
in
he's
Russia
more of
who
a
calls the
troll.
shots, and that is Vladimir Putin.
Hello,
He's the man
hello,
with the
mate.
power.
Hello, mate.
Having said that,
30 years ago.
a government reshuffle in Russia is interesting, particularly when key ministers
All right,
like the
30
defence
years
minister,
ago.
is being changed.
Nice
They
to
don't
meet you
happen
30
too
years
often. I mean,
ago.
the foreign minister,
Oh,
he's been
I'll
in
tell
his
the
post for
talking
20
head on
years.
BBC that
Mr.
it's his
Shoigu,
neck, Colin.
he has been defence minister for 12 years.
Yeah,
He was
it's
appointed
been a
by
while since
Vladimir
he's seen you, yeah.
in 2012,
I don't think you're coming
The two
back
men
anytime
were said
soon.
to
Look
be
at this
pretty
guy,
close
he's a
for long
floating
time.
head, he
They even
has
went
no
on
neck.
holiday,
He's a
few
fat
times to
goblin.
Siberia,
Yep. I
together.
think he eats babies too.
Last week, we were
Definitely a
on Red Square
leftist
watching the
Satanist.
Victory
I've
Day
seen
parade,
Eurovision.
and Defence Minister Shoigu was there inspecting the Russian
Okay,
troops.
30
But there
years
had
ago.
been rumours
See you
for
later.
some time that he
30
could
years ago, Colin.
be moved, he could lose his job.
Wanted to know where
and
this
it seems
guy's
that's
neck.
what's
Yeah,
happening.
said his neck wanted to
He still has a
know
job
where
to go
this guy
to.
was.
He's being moved
Something like
to the Russian Security Council as the head of the Security Council. But I think that's a demotion
I hadn't
compared
seen
to
you in
being
years then.
defence
popped up
minister,
on my feed.
who's coming
getting
in,
late off
replacing
the
someone
naughty
called
step.
Andrei
Doubt
Belosov,
it.
who's an economist. And I think
The
that
clickbait
reflects
fucking
the
titles
fact
I put
that
up,
over
man.
the last couple of
I should
years,
well
President
harness
Putin has put the Russian economy on a war
more hits
footing
and
and
clicks
wants
than
an
I do.
economist
for sure.
to run things because it's vital as far as he's
You
concerned.
can't put up fucking titles that I put up, man, and
defence
expect
industry
fucking
has enough
YouTube to
money,
treat you like everybody
to
else.
fund this war.
I would just hijack the fucking algos easy
Zelensky
peasy,
says
man.
there's fierce fighting along a large part of the Kharkiv border in eastern Ukraine as Russia attempts to regain territory it lost nearly 2 years ago. Thousands of civilians have been evacuated from the area where Russia claims
It's
to have
unbelievable.
captured 9
That's
villages.
really
They launched their
plus
surprise
the flip
offensive
she
on the
has.
region 3 days ago. Well, strikes were also seen on the Russian side of the
kind
border
of
in
weird
Belgorod
how
yesterday,
face
with
moves,
Russian
but it's
military
just a
saying the
centre
Ukrainian
point.
airstrike destroyed a section of a 10-storey apartment block. Well, let's speak to our Ukraine correspondent, James.
Gaza,
Wilson, who's in
Ukraine.
Kyiv. And James, it seems like a very
Hey,
fast
Baldy!
advance by the Russians
I'll
in
be with you
the
soon.
northeastern area. Tell us more about what happened.
Tell us more about what happened.
It's certainly causing Ukrainian forces some concern. You know, we saw the first meaningful border crossing by Russian troops since the initial full-scale invasion at the end of last week, and they are not just hanging around, they are taking more territory. They are claiming to have taken 9
Full-scale invasion. They didn't invade. This isn't a limited... You know, like Israel are doing limited operations. Russia uses the same rhetoric, but in the BBC, Russia's limited operations as a full-scale invasion, whereas what Israel is doing to Gaza, and clues in the name, the occupied territories of the West Bank and the Golan Heights, etc., the other occupied territories, that's limited defensive operations. They're doing that to defend themselves. Now, Russia's using the exact same fucking rhetoric, isn't they? You can believe it or not, right? Logically, from a military standpoint, it does make sense. You want to take up territory, hold territory, so they kind of keep lobbing artillery at your cities and strategic places. You know, it makes perfect sense from a military standpoint. But obviously, with the Western press that's against Russia, they have to go with the narrative that it's a full-scale invasion. If it was a full-scale invasion, they would do like, I don't know what the fuck they would do. Would they not just like keep going? It's almost as if they are trying to conquer the regions that border the Russian Federation to create a gap long enough, big enough, so Ukraine can't just sit there and lob endless artillery shells shipped in from America into Russian cities. I mean, that argument logically makes sense. Them doing a full-scale invasion, it doesn't seem like they're doing a full-scale invasion. From all fucking... like, they said what happened in the north was a surprise attack. If they're doing a full-scale invasion, Why the fuck is it a surprise attack, you dumbasses? They're even contradicting themselves with their own fucking bullcrap, fucking rhetoric, memes, drill shit into your nut. These are the fucking speech patterns, the way to describe things that are going. They're trying to drum into your nut. Because like see, just listen out for full-scale invasion, full-scale invasion, full-scale invasion, full-scale invasion. They'll repeat it so much that they hope, and it probably has happened in some people's nuts out there, that is what people just start saying, and then it is so.
Villages now, they are claiming to be inside a town called Vovchansk, which has come under such heavy bombing over the past couple of days. That is something Ukraine disputes, saying there's still heavy fighting going on. But there are also growing fears that when you have this joint incursion, as they try and move in on this new northeastern axis of the front line, they are approaching Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv. Now, while it's not thought these troops are capable of taking that city, if they were to get in within, say, 30 kilometres, then that would put them in artillery range, and then you have a situation where air defence...
And their fucking national animal is a unicorn, man. What is fucking great one? We drink juice that's the colour of fucking rust, and we eat stuff that you probably couldn't tell from a pile of shite or a deep fat fried pile of shite.
Liberation. So these are worrying times for the Kharkiv region. It's clear
Ukraine was once part of the
Russia is
USSR,
looking to capitalise on delayed American ammunition and weaponry for Ukrainian troops, and all Ukraine can do at the moment, as it acknowledges, is try to do everything it can to hold the line by dragging already overstretched.
I get exactly what you're saying, mate. Spot on. It's small minuses in it. It's these arguments. I mean, you could go back in history to fucking. You could get the. Oh, you can go back in history as long as you want and trace back this ancestor who had a claim over this land and say that's the most ancient claim and all that jazz, you know? Ultimately, it's just powerful men swinging their dicks.
One official said, well, if they're
and it's
changing
who
their
plants
defence
their
minister,
flag
that shows
wins.
how badly things are
That's why
going
you get the
for
American flag on
Russia.
the moon.
I think that was a slightly rose-tinted interpretation. One Ukrainian economist put it as bad news because Mr. Belousov is an economist, as you heard Steve say there. He is someone who has been central to Russia's war footing, someone central to its economy manoeuvring towards manufacturing more vehicles, tanks, as part of a country which is continuing to mobilise hundreds of thousands of men.
The name rings a bell, but I can't place it now.
This appointment suggests that it's a strategy that's set to continue for some time. So I think you have those nerves further afield, but what is happening on the ground
East Standard Time.
Ukraine.
Is that what that is, Barry? 7 p.m. Aye, that would make sense.
The evidence has been uncovered that the British government was warned by its own
Rise of
embassy
the
staff in the United States about the risk of
similar
HIV
time zone
from
to
contaminated blood
the
in the
land
early
of the rising
1980s.
sun.
It's now thought more than
Might even
1,200
be the same
NHS
one, I think.
patients with the blood disorder haemophilia were infected with the virus, many after being given a treatment made from American blood plasma. Our health correspondent Jim Reid has this report.
1970s to the early 90s,
What was it
tens
about,
of thousands
Unicorn?
of NHS patients were
People can
infected
drop links
with
in
HIV
here.
and
I'll okay
hepatitis
them.
C.
Something that should
If
have
they're
saved
legit,
their life.
especially YouTube stuff and all that.
Killed them.
God, man, fucking tragedy, man.
It was an inquiry.
Yet another example of how the bureaucratic merry-go-round just protects people, and ultimately institutions can get away with whatever they want. Cover up after cover up after cover up for 15, 20 years, move people to the side, kill them off. They move to the Bahamas, etc., etc., and then it all comes out because of recently revealed documents or a BBC drama. And it all comes out after the fact when everybody's moved sideways, nobody can be held accountable. And even for a wee extra cherry on top, to go on top of all the scumbaggery, give us another couple of £1 million and we'll string the inquiry out for a good few years to know whatever, so we can kind of whitewash what everybody knows has went on. Welcome to Britain, man. Well, the world actually, it's the same in most countries, I do believe. Anyway, right.
More about this. The volcano on our website.
Oh, hold on, there's a volcano there.
You'll find details of a special programme called
fuck's
Infected
sake.
Blood.
Have up
Time
your
for Answers.
cornflakes. I
As part
lost
of
my
Jim
mum,
Reid's
dad, brother,
investigation.
sister, baby, glass eye, wooden leg, and
Users,
over
you know, a
HIV.
volcano
Fucking
has
hell.
erupted, spewing thick columns of grey ash into the sky as high as 5 kilometres. The volcano on the remote island of Halmahera erupted for about 5 minutes on Monday morning. A smaller eruption was also recorded on Friday. Authorities raised the volcano's alert status to the second highest level last week. No evacuation of residents has been reported so far. Again, on that, you can keep up on our website. Do stay with us here on BBC News. We'll be back with more shortly.
It was up from. Oh shit!
To pass the
said
third
we'd go to
reading.
our team, get top
You can
of
see
our
behind me
news.
some.
That's because I have a concentration span of. Alright, they're going to lead with that. No, they're not. Oh, there we go.
Hello and welcome to Crosstalk Bullhorns. Here we discuss some real news.
Bullhorns. It's like he stole that straight out of the Alex Jones dictionary, didn't he? Hey!
18 civilians are killed in repeated Ukrainian missile strikes on the Russian city of Belgorod. Moscow condemns Kyiv and its Western sponsors.
Is there any Russian
for the
spies or
attack.
anything watching this?
In
If
an
there is,
unexpected decision, Vladimir
get
Putin
on the hooter
nominates
to
a new
Putin
defense minister.
and tell them
The
to sack
Kremlin
this
says
talking
that
head,
Andrei
even though he's got an
Belousov
English
is
accent,
the
which is
right
cool.
fit for a more
But he's
innovative
fucking,
focus
he's
for the
either
nation's
pissed,
military.
too
Egypt
fat,
supports
or
South
too
Africa's
polished to
genocide
talk.
charges against Israel in the International Court of Justice as the UN expresses concerns about the IDF's invasion of Rafah.
Fucking really hard to listen
There is no safe place in Gaza. These exhausted, famished people, many of whom have been displaced many times already, have no good options.
Yeah, what's that?
And
6,
the
7
US
minutes
says
by?
it intends to keep troops
minutes
in
by.
Niger despite orders from the West African country for a complete withdrawal.
Yes! So who's moving in? I think it's the Russians that have got troops in. Oh, it's Russians!
Live
The
from
Russians
our
have troops in
International News Centre
Nigeria.
in Moscow, this is RT. Welcome to the Global News Hour. We saw this
In the
hour
same
with
airfield as the
Belgorod.
American one.
A total of 18 people have been killed in multiple Ukrainian missile attacks on the Russian city. A 10-story building partially collapsed because of a missile strike. Emergency crews have been working around the clock to rescue survivors who are trapped under the rubble.
Oh man, Al Jazeera's got some great footage. Saying this, you know, I don't even explain. Have some great footage of the Israel bombing Gaza last night, pulling a wee girl out of the rubble. She's like greeting. She's crying out for her ma and all that, man. I'm like, fuck's sake, man. That's going to be burnt in my skull for the rest of the day. Right, so they're going to focus on this. Any dead babies and well, we must have some women. Can't it be a news story without some dead babies and. Yes, it killed 1 million people. There was even 1 woman and children. 1 woman and child. Hilarious, man. Works though, doesn't it? It works. Wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work.
Region, Russia's military has reported successful results from a new
Drunk,
offensive.
ain't this guy's so
Moscow's forces have taken
potato-like.
control of
He
9
started
villages in the
fermenting
past 2
into
days.
vodka.
There is active
So
combat
that's
against
why
the front and rear lines of the Ukrainian army in
that's
the
why he
border
sounds
area.
so smashed
Preliminary
out his
reports
tits.
say that Russian troops have advanced 30 kilometers northeast of the city of Kharkov. RT
I'm
correspondent
British, I come from the same
explains
island
how
as this
Ukraine
prick.
has failed
And I
to
struggle to
defend its
understand what he's saying.
position despite massive support from its Western sponsors.
So it's begun.
Russia's
See,
operation to
can
push
understand him.
Ukrainian forces out of range of Russian towns and cities in the Kharkov region is underway. And after all,
Colin
the fact that it was
McGregor's
coming was
brother,
no
so it
secret.
is.
In fact, even the Kremlin had signaled that this operation
Oh, no,
was
it was that here.
necessary. And as long as
think that's
Ukraine
the-
attacks Russian territory,
I think that's
the Russian army
leprechaun
will
accent,
push them
right?
as far
But then
back
north of the
as is
border, they have
necessary.
a different.
As Russian President
accent
Vladimir Putin
sitting
said,
behind the
if the
wee-
range of weapons increases, the buffer zone, security
yeah, I
zone
see
will
the little
expand,
bait, and
which will
she
be
was
required in order to secure our territory,
Oh,
our
stuff.
citizens.
Now, on the other
She's
side
doing
of the
that,
line,
like,
it's abundantly
you know what I mean,
clear
like,
that the Ukrainians also
like-
knew what was coming, with Russian forces advancing along
It was
much of the
like-
combat line.
Every
Ukraine's
third word was
Russian-born
like,
and trained
you know, that's
commander-in-chief
obviously
made
real
it clear that his
local
forces were
lingo.
preparing for a Russian assault
Because
in the
the boy
region.
she was with, the
The
wee boy she was
situation at
with
the
was
front
from
remains
Northern
difficult.
Ireland as well.
The enemy is actively attacking our units in several directions in order to advance deep into the territory of our state. The situation is difficult, but the defense forces of Ukraine are doing everything possible to hold the defensive lines and positions.
But now that the Russian offensive in Kharkov has actually begun,
Kharkov.
many in Kiev will be asking what the millions of dollars allocated for defensive structures in the region was actually spent on. With
Up a
Russian
bit,
forces making
down a
huge
bit,
gains, virtually
left a
unopposed.
bit,
These
right
structures
a
are
bit,
nowhere
boom,
to be
and it's
seen.
gone.
It seems Ukraine's corruption problem is yet again rearing its ugly head, with even senior ex-advisor to Boris Johnson calling a spade a spade.
We should have never got into the whole stupid situation.
Who looks
It's
like
not a
Harvey
replay of
Weinstein,
1940
Colin
with
McGregor's
Potemkin
brother, or the fat
Zelensky as the
potato guy.
Churchillian underdog. This whole Ukrainian corrupt mafia state has basically conned us all, and we're all going to get f***ed as a consequence. We are getting f***ed now, right?
But despite the reality check from Dominic Cummings and the rapid progress of the Russian army, President Zelensky recently reassured his Western funders that the border in the
So,
region
mate,
was
I
secured.
think this guy
All
does
was
have
well,
vodka before
and their
bouncing
money
on,
was
man.
being
He
well
sounds
spent on
smashed out
impregnable
his
lines
tits.
of defences.
He's more illegible than Joe Biden.
Construction of fortifications.
And that
Thank
saying
you to
something.
everyone who works to make Ukraine stronger.
Look, everybody's heads poking out
Seems that
the
as Russian army
trenches and all
takes
that,
more
and
than
these
30 square
Zelensky's like, look at
kilometres
these
in a single
mountains.
day, with village after village being added to the list of liberated settlements, the reality is that
Harvey
Zelensky's much
Weinstein.
vaunted, very expensive line simply didn't exist at all. And as
I need to
Kiev
try and
blames
keep
the
more
West
on
for
the ball
failing
with
to
the
save
chat.
the
I lose
day by supplying enough weapons
some
and cash,
context and that
the
bit.
Western media is losing patience with Zelensky's games. And meanwhile, Zelensky, who previously
Are
told
they
us that
really? I
Kiev
just
was
watched the
so
Western
secure in
media,
Ukraine,
man,
is
and
now
none of them are
determined to
like
use
fucking
even the
saying fuck
direst
all, buddy.
situation on the ground to the advantage
You're watching,
of
you're in
his
the wrong
fundraising
social media bubble, mate. You're getting your information from fucking
We are
Putler
adding more
himself.
forces to Kharkov directions, both along our state border and along.
You stick
the
to
really helpful
MM
package is the weapons
MM
brought to Ukraine,
mix,
not just the
martial
announcement
MMA.
of the package.
Easy for me to say. That's just war propaganda.
Society must make sacrifices to support the war effort.
Globally speaking, starting on May 18th, when the mobilisation law comes into force,
This was
first of all,
like
the
10
approach to
days
this war will
ago.
change.
Right?
This situation
Remember,
where some
we're
people are
not
fighting
at
the
war
front
with
lines
fucking
while others are
Russia.
living their quiet lives is obviously coming to an end.
Just,
it would be normal if
me
our
being
enemy was weak,
childlike.
but with such an enemy, the whole
Nigger,
country and the
once
whole of
US
society need to mobilise.
Groups out.
I think, of course, that this new law, number one,
And the US is saying,
indicates
we're not
that
going.
there's a tremendous issue.
And at the same time, like,
with,
hey,
recruitment,
Ruskies!
with the
We want
Ukrainian
your
armed forces
vodka!
themselves, with their
Hey,
size, with their
you guys
ability
want your vodka!
to fight against Russia.
So remember, we're not at war with Russia. We weren't at war with Russia inside Syria. In fact, we're still not at war with Russia inside Syria, although we kind of are. But we aren't. We're not at war with Russia and Ukraine, although we kind of are, but we aren't. And we aren't at war with China, although they're hacking our fucking army, but they ain't.
The young elite in Ukraine partying and sharing the corruption.
There's not missiles raining into Israel and Israeli bases in occupied territories from Iraq and Syria. No. And there is the militant Arabs fighting Israel inside Gaza.
Who don't want this war, who don't want to see this conflict continue,
to see here, folks.
and who eventually
Buying
want
McDonald's
to have
burgers?
some solution to
All
this,
good.
probably by bringing down the
In
government itself.
the hood.
Vladimir Putin is reshuffling his
You have reached your
cabinet for
article
his
limit.
new term as president and has replaced longtime Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. Now, a quick summary of the major posts
see by the power of the internet.
Russian government for Vladimir Putin's fifth presidential term.
Right, this might fuck
the
up my
incumbent
streams.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will remain in office. Sergei Shoigu will switch from Defense Minister to
Let's see if this works. Hamana. Surely you're allowed Reuters in fucking Singapore, man. Yep. Boom shakalaka. No, it's not working. That was successful. Ah, shit. Now I fucked up my RT.
Secretary of the National Security.
Note is that today on the battlefield, the winner is the one who is open, more open to innovation, more open to maximum operational implementation. And therefore, naturally, at the current stage, the president has decided that a civilian should head the Ministry of Defense. And that is not just a civilian, but a man who headed the very successful Ministry of Economic Development of Russia, who for a long time was an assistant to the president.
US Army, you leave, you move, you vanish. No bombs.
So that's
no negotiation.
Years, a very long time to hold such a senior post in
fucking hell! What dyslexic fucking non-English speaking fucking idiot wrote that fucking sign?
President Putin on matters of national security. He'll also have an
that says grassroots to me.
Looking to the future and looking at potential threats that could be coming Russia's way. It's still somebody who
will be fucking waving fucking Russian flags.
Suggestions as to how the country should be dealing with lots of different situations.
I think it's safe to say also that, I mean, the name Sergei Shoigu is much more well known around the world and probably in Russia too than Andrei Belousov. What can you tell us about this incoming replacement for Shoigu?
Didn't hear much about that.
He doesn't have a
you don't hear much about that on the Western press
We've
at
seen
all.
That with plenty of other ministries of defences across the world. Has been the first deputy prime minister for Russia now since 2020, and in his role and his background as an economist, he's actually been very important in terms of looking at the reconstruction efforts of the 4 newly integrated regions into Russia. He understands what's going on in the ground there, and that will give him a different sense as to what perhaps the priorities. And given that Belousov has got...
I'm sure maybe with time it'll come into focus a wee bit easier what's going on with that Putin shuffle thing and why seems to be. I thought it would be more internal politics going on, you know. Good day for gardening.
Çünkü 1945 sonrasında Amerika Birleşik Devletleri Türkiye'yi denetim altına aldı. İkinci Dünya Savaşı'nda bir demokrasi lideri olarak dünyada
doing a wee bit of gardening, mate. It's good for the soul.
Yapıldı. Ve o
really is.
68 kuşağı yani Dolmabahçe'de Amerikan askerlerini denize dökte, Türkiye'de bir yandan da günümüze kadar gelen bir süreç izlendi. 68 kuşağı
Yeah,
yani
I'm not sure where
Dolmabahçe'de
this is.
Amerikan askerlerini denize dökmesine karşı çıkan
On the time cycle.
Rejected the request and
I don't think this is the top of our news. This looks like some Turkey documentary. I'm pretty sure Press TV. I think Press TV making a documentary on how bad Israel is, man. Is it really a documentary? If you think it is, I've got Elvis's fart in a jar to sell you. I just can't figure this out without a timestamp, man. Oh, hold on. That looks promising here.
This documentary describes the behind-the-scenes
I
process
know that's
of the
all right. Well,
Arab-Israeli
it's
war,
4 o'clock in
Suez
Tehran.
crisis.
So is that going to be half-hour shit or the top of the hour? Oh, I think I might have cracked the codes. Woohoo, done it! I used to get the top of the hour news from old Press TV.
Headlines this hour. Hamas condemns the US president's remarks on Israeli captives as a setback to Gaza ceasefire talks and proof of Washington's biased support for the regime.
Hamas fucking camp is what do you call it? Hamas camp is Eurovision, mate.
Says it has hit an Israeli Iron Dome platform at a military base in northern part of the occupied territories with drones.
That's in camp. Thank you very much, man. I actually take that as a
Also in the headlines, the International Rights Organization says Israeli forces used children as human shields during their brutal raids on
Your
Palestinians
comments
in the occupied
sound a
West
bit
Bank.
weird. I often go into live streams and say to people, you sound like a munchkin. Always do it. Just randomly. I don't know why.
Joining us.
It's weird, isn't it?
More than 7 months into the Israeli genocidal war in Gaza, the regime continues to kill civilians across the besieged territory.
Woohoo! Dead body and baby drinking game. We've got a wee bit of coffee left.
Into the Jabalia refugee camp, killing several
That was
people
at least
there.
2 dead bodies.
In the central parts of the strip, over 60 Palestinians were killed in just 24 hours. Relentless
Oh,
Israeli
fuck.
bombings also claimed the
We've
lives
got enough
of 18
vodka for
people
that.
in the southern refugee-packed city of Rafah. That is where Israeli forces are preparing for a large-scale ground aggression, despite international warnings. The UN Human Rights Chief says a full-scale Israeli
Remember,
assault on the city of
folks,
Rafah cannot take place.
You can, well, rebellion. There's an easy way to sort that out.
The latest evacuation orders affect close to 1 million people in Rafah. So where should they go now? There is no
where
safe
should they
place
go
in
now?
Gaza. These exhausted, famished people, many of whom have been displaced many times already, have no good options. Other towns across Gaza, including Khan Yunis, which is supposed to receive those who are being displaced from Rafah right now, have already been reduced to rubble and remained under attack. These are not safe places. I've repeatedly expressed my alarm about the catastrophic impact of a possible full-scale offensive on Rafah, including the possibility of further atrocity crimes. I can see no way that the latest evacuation orders, much less a full assault in an area with an extremely dense presence of civilians, can be reconciled with the binding requirements of international humanitarian law and with the 2 sets of binding provisional measures ordered by the International Court of Justice.
Over 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since last October, when the U.S.-Israeli genocide began. Most of those killed are women and children. Thousands of bodies also remain under the rubble.
Oh, fuck. I haven't got enough vodka for that drinking game.
Doctors and medics in Rafah describe the condition of hospitalized patients in this city as catastrophic.
Well, haven't they showed that
Israel's relentless bombardments have left no
Maybe
safe
it was the
place in the
BBC
city,
that was showing
calling
that.
on international organizations to provide immediate help.
We are talking
the
about the
BBC that was
catastrophic
showing that.
health situation. With the Arab, international and Islamic silence, the situation becomes more and more catastrophic. The Zionist enemy breaks
Sky
all
News
international and humanitarian
hasn't
laws.
spoke about
There is
Gaza
no place for
that
patients
I've
and
seen
injured
all
to go
morning.
except for this hospital. Today, amid bombardment and destruction, we call from Kuwaiti Specialty Hospital for an international protection from Red Cross and World Health Organization. This is the only shelter and place for patients and injured to go to. There is no other place to go to. We call for immediate international protection for this hospital. Everyone should take their responsibilities. Our blood and souls are in the hands of all free people in the world.
The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has
Unfortunately,
condemned a
mate,
statement by the US
the
president
people who make
seeking
the
to end
decisions
the war in Gaza
don't care.
and the release of Israeli captives.
Unfortunately.
Hamas called Biden's
I wish
remarks
they
a
did.
setback for Gaza ceasefire
But
talks and proof
they
of
don't.
Washington's biased
I'm only
support for the
saying
regime.
What I see?
The U.S. president said on Saturday that a ceasefire
Hold on, that seems to be a wee bit.
Tomorrow, if Hamas gave up hostages.
The
Hamas said the
audio
U.S.
seems
stance
a wee
runs
bit
counter to
disconnected
negotiations,
for the
which led to the resistance movement's
visuals.
acceptance of a ceasefire proposal put forth by mediators. The group says that it has been flexible during the and it is Israel that has been trying to sabotage the peace process. The group said that Biden's statement is the latest attempt to cover up Israel's ethnic cleansing of Palestinians.
I would have needed a liter of vodka.
Putting up stiff resistance
Play
to
that
Israeli
game.
troops and inflicting heavy losses upon them as the regime presses ahead with its invasion of the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The Al-Quds Brigade, the military wing of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement, has released a video showing a drone strike on an Israeli tank. In yet another retaliatory operation, the group targeted a gathering of Israeli forces and damaged their vehicles in the east of Jabalia. Resistance fighters also hit the regime's armored vehicles and troops elsewhere in Gaza. Meanwhile, fierce clashes have been reported in the Al Zaytun neighborhood
the fuck
and
is
the Jabalia
that?
refugee camp. The Israeli military has so far confirmed over 270
Is that
deaths
real
among its
footage?
forces
I
since
think
the
it
start
is.
of the ground invasion of Gaza. But Palestinians and several mainstream media outlets say the regime is deliberately hiding the real number of its casualties to avoid Israeli public outrage.
I'm laughing at the production value of their war porn.
Lebanon's Hezbollah has carried out fresh operations against Israel's military positions. The resistance movement launched a
production
drone strike on
value
the Beit
of
Hillel
their war
base in
porn.
northern occupied
It's
Palestinian
hilarious.
territories. The base itself and the Iron Dome platforms were hit there. The base came under another drone attack minutes after the first strike. A video released by Hezbollah shows an explosion at the Israeli site. The resistance movement also hit Israel's Ramiyah military site, located near Lebanon's southern border. Hezbollah and Israel have been trading fire since the regime began its genocidal onslaught on Gaza. An international NGO has revealed that Israeli forces used 3 children as human shields during their raids on an area in the occupied West Bank earlier this month. The Defense for Children International made the revelation based on testimonies of those children. They described how the regime's soldiers forced them to walk ahead of them as they searched through the Tulkarm refugee camp in early May. In 2 of those cases, Israeli soldiers placed
Simple
their
but
rifles on the
effective.
children's shoulders. These kids have also recounted how their homes were stormed. Human rights organizations have multiple times reported Israel's use of Palestinian civilians as human shields during their incursions into the occupied territories. This comes as the Israeli military has intensified its crackdown on Palestinians in the West Bank since the start of the Gaza genocide in early October. The U.S. has announced that it is pausing the shipment of certain weapons to the Israeli regime, citing concerns about the severity of the humanitarian situation in Gaza. In our Explainer program, we examined the details of the U.S. decision. When it comes to the U.S. and arms sales, the two are synonymous, especially when it comes to U.S. foreign policy. When it comes to U.S. arms sales to Israel, well, the two are joined from the hip. Now, this relationship is hinging on this not only for Israel's survival, but for U.S. arms manufacturers to make profits. So when the U.S. President Joe Biden announces that it is suspending bomb sales to Israel, that has to be taken with a grain of salt.
3 men charged with assisting Hong Kong's intelligence services in foreign interference.
That it has announced that it has
Met
held
Police
up bomb shipments to
says,
stop Israel from
so,
the Rafah offensive.
that's China.
Now, the key word there, held up. I mean, that can also
I lost my
mean, for
mum,
starters, that
dad,
it's
and
equivalent to
babies.
one
Oh,
or more
that's
of
the
polling
HIV
phrases that
thing.
you see over here,
I think they had a
which
wooden.
media has used words like pause or on hold. They all mean really one thing, that it is temporary and that it will resume. Now let's see what has been held up, to use U.S.'s words. They said, we have paused one shipment of weapons last week. It consists of 1,800 2,000-pound bombs. And also, it went on to say 1,700 500-pound bombs. Then he said, we are especially focused on the end use of the 2,000-pound bombs and the impact they could have in dense urban settings, as we have seen in other parts of Gaza.
Got to love the internet, man. It's just so beautiful.
In addition to that, on the shipment. Not made a final decision yet. Aren't these the same bombs that have been responsible for leveling entire neighborhood blocks? The 2 bombs that you see here, the 2,000 and then the 500
Press TVs are a day too late, mate.
Furthermore, the US
Seriously.
bombs gives the impression that the US
Email down below, Press TV. I'll be your talking head, man. Make you reach a demographic that you're not reaching already, because you're great talking heads, you have, man.
Have been used to kill civilians in Gaza. He said civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which the IOF goes after population centers.
See, I presented that in a whole different way, buddy.
But within a span of days, then came the report to be submitted to Congress on Israel's use of military weapons. It went on to say first that Israel, based on what they have said, may have used American-supplied weapons in ways inconsistent with
to up a
bit, when it comes to
down a bit, left a bit, right a bit, boom, bang,
for its use of US
and the stain is gone.
Now wait a minute, these two go against each other, so obviously that's very confusing, to say the least. Well, does Israel even care about Biden's pause announcement? Well, the Israeli PM has said that Israel can stand.
It's not too much skin, man. If you compare me to the woman, man, it's too much forehead, that show, man. But I'm trying to get into forehead Forbes cabinet, and I'm thinking it's going to be.
U.S. arms for Israel are still in the pipeline.
I'm trying to think of something funny to say here.
Munitions, tank rounds, mortars, and armored vehicles.
Foreheads Forbes cabinet's going to be foreheads to the forefront. That's what I'm thinking. So, bigger my fucking dome, bigger my forehead, more chance I've got to. I might know why this is. The bigger my dome is, the more she can see a reflection in it, and then she fucking loves chatting to me, and then I get a lot of FaceTime. That's my thinking. It's my logic. See the logic method to my madness.
After over 7 months of this aggression and the infrastructure damage seen here is proof of the destruction that these bombs cause, from residential buildings to hospitals to schools and to mosques. So severe, the question then arises, were these bombs meant to make Gaza unlivable? Something many believe is the case. And as far as the U.S. caring about human lives, do any of these wars actually show that? Especially the war in Yemen or the war in Syria? These are the number of people that have been killed in these wars. A large percentage of the deaths a result of U.S.-made weapons.
Health experts say washing compulsion can weaken the immune system of the body. Yet today, you can find more people who constantly wash their hands and face. So where does the obsession come from? Many people are lining their pockets by pushing others into obsession.
See TikTok.
Watch how they do it in this
and
documentary.
Twitter, man. It's just full of spam.
Welcome back to the news here on Press TV. The U.S. Secretary of State has warned against a full-scale Israeli invasion of the southern Gaza city of Rafah, saying that the offensive will lead to anarchy and that the regime will not be able to eliminate Hamas. Anthony Blinken told the U.S. News Network that Israel lacks a, quote, credible plan to protect some 1.4 million Palestinians taking refuge in Rafah. He said the cost of invasion will be incredibly high. He also acknowledged that Israeli forces have killed innocent civilians in Gaza since October of last year. Blinken added that the U.S. also does not see any plausible plan for the future of Gaza once the war ends. Washington and Tel Aviv are increasingly at odds ever since the U.S. president threatened to halt the transfer of weapons if the regime invades Rafah. However, critics call the threat hypocritical, as the U.S. remains the #1 supplier of military hardware to Israel. Washington has also used its veto power multiple times to protect Israel at the UN. Anger continues to flare up on American university campuses over the Israeli genocidal war in Gaza and the U.S. government's backing for the regime. This time at Duke University in North Carolina, where dozens of students walked out of a commencement ceremony.
When do you know somebody's not friendly to a government? When they don't call them a government, they call them a regime.
And chanted slogans against the speaker, who was a comedian named Jerry Seinfeld. He's been a supporter of the Israeli war on Gaza and received an honorary degree at the commencement ceremony. Outside of the venue, graduates walked around campus chanting disclosure and divest. Similar slogans have been reverberating across U.S. campuses in recent weeks as pro-Palestine students demand universities divest from companies profiting from the Gaza genocide. There were other walkouts during graduation ceremonies at American universities. On Saturday, at Virginia Commonwealth University, dozens of students left their seats and walked out while the governor of Virginia was delivering his commencement address.
I mean, whoever thought this guy was good at presenting? In all seriousness, he's so... They can't even sort of say a sentence without speaking. Reading skills worse than me, man. Right, I'd need a teleprompter with letters on it.
The leaders of Palestinian resistance factions have met in Damascus this Sunday.
If I could see it, I could fucking read it better than that.
Right. The Al-Aqsa Flood operation and the Israeli genocidal war against the resilient Palestinian people in Gaza. The recent negotiations in Egypt and their results were among the most important topics discussed at the meeting.
This meeting reviewed the field developments in the Gaza Strip and the steps taken by the resistance to confront Israeli atrocities. Leaders from Hamas and Islamic Jihad joined us through video conference. The results of the Cairo negotiations were also discussed after the failure of efforts to reach an agreement on ceasefire and release of Israeli captives in exchange for Palestinian prisoners.
The resistance leaders reaffirmed the importance of unity among their ranks on all fronts at this critical time. They called on the Arab and Islamic countries to assume their responsibilities towards the Palestinian people who are suffering Israeli brutal aggression.
Brother Ziad Nakala emphasized in a phone call that the Israeli invasion of Rafah and the crimes committed by the occupation will not break the resilience of the resistance movements and our people. The participants agreed on a unified position to confront the U.S.-Israeli war. This meeting also urges the Arab and Islamic nations, the Arab League, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to assume responsibility in the face of the aggression against Palestinian people.
The Palestinian resistance factions vowed to take all necessary measures to confront Israeli atrocities and keep resisting until they achieve all Palestinian nations' rights.
Even the Japs aren't safe trying to force women into armies, man. And I love the way it's sold to women. Oh, equal rights, equal rights, equal rights. Right, number one, who, no matter what your genitalia fucking is, wants to join the army, right? You've got to be a screw loose, I think. That's just my personal opinion, but each to their own and all that jazz. And like the way they frame it, as if like it's good for women. Aye, throw the women into oncoming fucking love bombs and bullets. It's just like the same way that God, let me go back now. 70, 80, 90 years ago. A man could go out and work, and maybe not the best paying job at the time. A man could go out and work, and not the best job at the time, and still manage to support a family. Now you've got women's liberation. They can go out and be fucking slaves, cogs in the machine. As well, while our kids are turned into other cogs in the machine. While the cogs in the machine need to pay for your kids to be looked after, while you're a cog in the machine, and the money you get paid for cogs in a machine probably isn't even enough to cover the expenses you need to pay somebody else to look after your kid, while you're a cog in the machine. But hey, it's capitalism. Every cunt needs to be a good slave, and everybody needs to turn up and do their bit for the machine. Be a fucking cog, man. If you're not a cog, you're useless. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. Well, I do know where that came from. Japan's military need more women. For fuck's sake. Shit, right, let's go to
It has demanded leaders of
Any
Arab
dead
countries
bodies
to
and
step up their efforts and pressure the Zionist regime to end its genocide in Gaza.
We are
This
here
regime
to
genocide.
support the Gaza and Palestine. The brutal taken by the Israelis with the help of the other Americans. And those people who are against the Muslim Ummah. We are here to support Palestine till they are
Till I die.
victory.
All over the
Yeah,
world,
till you die.
such type of rallies are being done, and not only in Islamic countries, but in the Western
Mugs
countries,
fight
even
in the
in
wars, not
USA,
heroes.
in Japan.
Aye.
Everywhere there
It's
are
not like the
rallies
olden days where the
against them.
king used to
And this
fucking
is
have to
not
go
only
into
the
horseback
Muslim
and could
cause,
possibly get
human
slaughtered if the army fails. It's just fucking
The
bits of wood
Jews,
thrown on the fucking fire. Like people sit in their ivory
Isais,
towers conduct it.
Masihis, and
And that
Muslims,
is the reality.
they all are doing these type of rallies against Israel.
As we have seen, the atrocities
I mean,
going on
I know what would
medical
drive
staff,
me to
especially
war.
the paramedics,
It certainly wouldn't be a professional army.
without any discrimination, who are
That makes any
involved
sense.
in the treatment of the organism, human beings out there. Even the atrocities are kept going on done. So we are here to denounce
While protests continue across the globe, the international community faces increasing pressure to take decisive action to end the Israeli genocide and protect the human rights of the Palestinian people. Mohammed Turi, Press TV,
You
Karachi.
can't have human rights if you manage to paint them as just dumbass
Iran
barbarians.
hosts the 35th Tehran International Book Fair. The annual event is the largest of its kind in Iran and one of the main book exhibitions in West Asia. Our correspondent Reza Hashemi brings us a report from the site of the book fair in Tehran.
Thousands of publishers are displaying
They have
tens of
books
thousands of
in
books in the
Tehran?
latest edition of
Kidding
Iran's
me on.
largest annual book event. Available titles cover topics ranging from religion to gaming and everything in between. Also, a new style of educational books are introduced that use the help of artificial intelligence.
What makes our book smart is that its
I love the
content
way,
is
like,
in
they-
sync with AI, as the students can get
Ah,
an education
shut
through
up,
gaming.
that's AI pish.
The international section of the exhibition brings
Come back to
together
me
over
with AI
60
when you fucking got a working
Many are foreign
Schwarzenegger
publishers
Terminator.
took this opportunity to create a bridge between their homeland and Iran, exchanging culture, literature, and ideas.
This is my first year taking part in the Tehran Book Fair. It's been an amazing experience. There are around 200 publishers that I work with in Iraq. Only 20 took part in the book fair this year. My plan is to involve more publishers next year and introduce Iranian novels and literature to Iraq.
In the middle of Tehran Book Fair,
During World War
that many
II, my
people's
granddad
attention.
get a knock at the
It was
door.
like no other. A symbolic
He'd
stand
come
that was
with us.
dedicated to the Palestinian people.
Flung
The
into
main goal was to
World War
call
II.
attention to what is taking place
Him
in
and his
Palestine
battalion
and the crimes Israel
turned
must
up at a
commit.
wee village, a wee French village. It's a great story, man. My granddad had a great World War, man. Turned up at a wee French village. There was no fucking Germans, man, so they started getting pissed and shagging all the fucking Fräuleins. And they get fucking ratters. And then the Germans walked in and took them all prisoner because they were all fucking steaming.
The United Nations tries to speak on
Boom!
the taking
Prisoner of war for the rest of the war. Didn't you see anybody getting genocide? Just saying. Certainly seen, what would you call it?
The 10-day
Workers'
event
camps,
will highlight
prisoner
the
of war
strength
camps,
of
concentration camps. But I didn't see any ovens or any of that shit.
This event has attracted
Just telling you first-hand evidence. But I rocked into a wee village. Him and his fucking mates get steaming. The Germans came in, took them prisoner without one shot fired. So my granddad didn't kill one German in the whole of the war.
And that does it for this edition of World News.
Just
Thanks
his
for being with
liver.
us. This bye-bye.
Business, eh? I think that's the kind of World War I would like to do, man. Right, hookers, blow, no blow, shit. Right, fucking baguettes and fucking prostitutes. Do some of that wine. Right, now I'll go and sit the rest out in a wee fucking prisoner of war camp.
Nuristan's pristine nature with vast oak forests, gaping gorges, and amazing waterfalls.
Mate, have you been serious or is there a joke I'm missing there, man? Because, like, as I said, my granddad didn't see any fucking shite. He wasn't part of the landings. He got took in afterwards. And he was back up. It wasn't like a skilled soldier, you know what I mean? He was a fucking boom, boom, boom, you're coming with us.
Just to watch the most wonderful place in the heart of Iraq.
Boy for the East End, when you've been held to high regard with his name, when you've been held in too high regard, probably. And aye, didn't fire a gun in the hole where they were up to. I'm pretty sure he fired the fucking gun, if you get me right. He didn't fire a gun in anger or in a war. He did fire it in a war, but not participating in it. That's a great fucking story, man.
To sever any links with the Zionist entity.
That it is. Right, let's see what the German wave is telling us to think about today. Okie dokie, taking a pokey. Right, 47 I'm looking for. I think this is about it. They give you a countdown.
BW News coming to you live from Berlin.
On the button.
Top court rules the far-right Alternative for Germany party is a potential threat to democracy. It says the AfD can be classified as a suspected extremist group, allowing...
Yes! Don't you just love democracy? See this mob over here? They're getting fucking far too much fucking support. They're a threat to democracy. We need to ban them. Yeah, don't think about it, people, don't think about it. Just democracy. Democracy, democracy, democracy is what we say it is when we say it is, and then it isn't when we say it isn't. You alright? Get it? Got it? Good. Now shut up, trolls, and watch the German wave.
Allowing it to be placed under domestic surveillance nationwide. Also coming up, Vladimir
The heads for our
orders a
freedoms,
shakeup of Russia's
obviously.
military leadership. He dismisses long-standing ally Sergei Shoigu as defense minister and replaces him with an economist with little military experience.
Are they going to ignore
And
Gaza?
Israeli tanks re-enter
Nope.
parts of northern Gaza.
Only Sky
The
News.
military says Hamas militants are regrouping there. Hundreds of thousands of people are also on the move in southern Gaza as Israel issues new evacuation orders. Hello, I'm Terry Martin. Thanks for joining us. We begin with some breaking news. A top court here in Germany has ruled that the far-right Alternative for Germany party is a potential threat to democracy. This decision means the AfD can be classified as a suspected extremist group, allowing it to be placed under surveillance by domestic intelligence nationwide.
These Arabs definitely hate us for our freedoms, man. Same with the Chinas. Democracy ruled by majority. Yeah, you're getting too much votes. Ban them.
For us in the city of Münster. I asked him what this verdict means.
Yeah, Terry, what this means is, as you said, the domestic intelligence services here in Germany can continue to regard the AfD, a political party represented in the national parliament.
It's called them the brown shirts. And they're going, yeah, by the way, I'm no supporter of the AfD, man. They're fucking Tommy Robinson mob on fucking steroids, man. It ain't my cup of tea.
They are acting in a way that is essentially deemed to undermine Germany's constitution and democracy. And the judge said, he sort of made a comparison with a smoke alarm. If the smoke alarm is sounding in your house, it's reasonable for the police to break down the door to...
Listen up, dumb citizens. This is democracy for you. Okay, imagine a bomb. Here's the bomb. Here's the pen. Here's the red line on the bomb. Here's the shredder. Imagine the United Nations Constitution. This is us shredding it. Waka waka waka. Okay, imagine a smoke alarm. Imagine you having a smoke alarm that goes off every time you cook a bit of toast. Then the cops are going to rattle through your fucking door with the Darth Vader wearing outfits and go, "Welcome to democracy! You've got a faulty smoke alarm!" Ooh, crash right through your fucking door. Every morning, and every time you make a bit of toast, you're like, "Here, hold on, mate, I'm just making a bit of toast, I'll get a shitty smoke alarm." Yeah, democracy, man! Oh, right, so you listening up, dumb tards? Okay, if you didn't understand it, we're going to break it down into simple, into a smoke alarm analogy. Honestly, who writes this? It's like I want to fucking see BBC or something. Is this fucking John Craven's news round? What the fuck am I watching?
See if there's a fire, and that is what he said the domestic intelligence services are doing here. He also said that the AFD had, he criticised the way that they had attempted to use this appeals process here at this court to sort of, as he suggested, try and play games with Germany's democratic institutions. He says the court is not a theatre. This is a very serious matter. As you said, he's confirmed decisions of previous courts and said that the AFD should be regarded with suspicion.
Now, the AFD is doing very well in the polls in Germany. It's currently the second most popular party in the whole country. How could this impact the AFD party, Simon?
Yeah, well, this comes at an important moment for German politics. We've got European elections coming up in just a few weeks. The AFD is hoping to do well there.
Is this?
And we've also got important state elections in 3 East German states later in the year, where currently the AFD is riding around 30%.
The power structure inside Germany try to shut down, no matter how retarded you may or may not believe this ADF or whatever it is mob are, and they're saying it's because it's a threat to our democracy. It's a threat to the little closed shop power circle that are at the moment still able to write the laws. Obviously,
what we've seen is over recent weeks and months, the AFD embroiled in scandal after scandal, links to spying from Russia and China, stories about secret meetings to discuss the repatriation of millions of migrants, and many other things, connections to the far
Tommy
right.
Robinson's mob on steroids.
None of that has really put much of a dent in the party's popularity, and to be honest, I would doubt that this would either.
Simon, thank you very much. Our correspondent, Simon Young, there in Münster. Russian President Vladimir Putin has replaced Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu.
It's called a
fascia. The first shakeup of his national security team since the invasion of Ukraine. Shoigu's replacement is Andrei Belousov, an economist,
a symbol of his fascism.
Former Deputy Prime Minister.
It goes back to ancient Rome and the power of a magistrate. It used to be a weapon of torture. Then it came, the magistrate used to use if you didn't do what the magistrate said. And then if you used one stick, it would break easy when you were torturing cunts. But then you'd get a big bundle of sticks, tie them all together, and rattle. That's the history of the fasci, and it's all over everywhere. It's in the Lincoln Monument, it's in the building in George Square, it's everywhere, man, fasci. Sometimes with an axe, sometimes without an axe.
He's very publicly taken the president on multiple hunting trips to his homeland in southern Siberia.
Yes.
But recently, Shoigu has become deeply unpopular in Russia. He's seen by many as being largely responsible for the early failures of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and rumors were rife that his removal was coming. On Sunday, Putin appointed Shoigu head of Russia's Security Council to replace Nikolai Patrushev.
I get it now. It's coming into a wee bit more focus.
Shoigu, and it's unclear what Patrushev's new role will be. Both men were key figures in Russia's war in Ukraine.
They're suggesting that
took some Western military observers
he was blamed for the
clearly Putin
lack of success at the
recently
beginning.
Been re-inaugurated for his latest term in the
And
presidency.
rather than
And you would have expected at that point maybe some
publicly
changes
publicise
in
the failings,
but not these two,
it's kind
and
of been
not
slowly moved
Shoigu's
sideways
successor
or
as
in the
defense
background,
minister
and that's
is
why the
Andrei
West are
Belousov,
obsessing about
a
it,
former
and that's why
prime minister
RT,
and economist.
that's why RT
Also
touches
is a
on it,
civilian
right?
With little military experience.
In English, because that's for English-speaking people, RT, not the Ruski market. Now, TASS does come out of Russia. It is in English, but I believe, maybe wrongly, I might stand corrected, but I believe TASS, do you know what? I'm sitting here as if I haven't got the internet. Has it got a wiki? It's got to have a wiki. Just to get a wee idea. State-owned news agency, 1904. It's the largest news agency and one of the largest news agencies. It's Russia. It's not largest and one of the largest news agencies worldwide. TTT, SPTA, PTA, Rosta. I can remember Rosta for some weird reason. Was that like the USSR's one or something? I can half remember. So it's a very noticeable news institution, let's say. And at the moment, owner, wholly owned by federal government as a federal utility enterprise, so it's government. So I'd imagine they would do a Russian-speaking version as well. For whatever reason, I can't seem to, like, no matter however I frame this, you can't get the whole. Oh no, hold on, if I do that, that's stupidly way too big, but it allows you to see everything. So this is the home. Oh no, I can't see fuck all now. If the West wants to solve Ukraine conflict, so be it, Lavrov. Yes, coming for TASS. Russia official defense and what's more. Okay, death toll. So anything about the cabinet reshuffle. Might be in the inauguration, because that's what they've used to kind of justify the shifting. Right, there we go, there it's there. Fuck, do you click on the fucking story? What the fuck? Is this snidey Russian fucking website? That's weird as fuck. So it just gives you one line. Maybe that's that. I need to figure out how to work that better. So
the Kremlin says Belousov got the job because Putin wants the ministry to be open to innovation.
It is important to incorporate the economy of the security bloc into the country's economy, to incorporate it in a way that matches the dynamics of the current moment. It's also important to mention that today, those who are more open to innovation and implement innovation the quickest win on the battlefield.
With Belousov's nomination, Putin is most likely looking to bring military funding in step with the Russian economy, similar to the Soviet Union of the 1980s.
Our correspondent Roman Goncharenko told me why Putin is replacing his defense minister at this point in the war.
Well,
It's not really a surprise because about a year ago there was this mutiny of the Prigozhin Wagner group that we don't hear anymore in the news, but which was very influential a year ago or 2 years ago when the Russian war, big invasion started, that mercenary group. So Prigozhin attacked the defense minister and the head of the general staff very harshly, he humiliated them both actually. So observers were expecting a resignation of Shoigu last year, but he's a very close ally of Vladimir Putin. That's why he kept him for a year. Now he's replacing him. The reason is obvious. The war is not going just as Putin planned it. It's the third year. The Russian economy is stable, but it's a very heavy burden for the Russian economy, and economy is key to continue this war of attrition that is going on. That is why the new defense minister is an expert in economy.
Tell us, Roman, about Shoigu's successor, Andrei Belousov. What does he bring to the job?
Well, it's an interesting figure because he kept a very low profile despite of being in high positions. He was deputy prime minister, he was minister of economy a few years ago. He has economic background. Economy is his major, so to say. He comes from a academic family, Russian Soviet elite in the 80s, 70s. But I think the major reason for appointing him is his expertise in economy. And this is something that
my washing machine's fine, but the fucking sink is broke, man.
Zelensky did a year ago.
Problems in its own.
Changed the defense minister, and the current Ukrainian defense minister has also economic background. So both countries.
Remember your daily politics fix here every morning, 9 o'clock, Monday, Friday, night even to the weekends. I look at as many different spectrums of the English-speaking talking holes of the press entities out there as I can.
Protesters spent another night outside Parliament.
This is the German wave, DW,
law that they say
funded by Germany and the
European
Union.
Foreign Agents Bill will be voted on Tuesday.
Reuters, TASS, BBC,
Spain's socialists
Sky.
are hailing what they call a new era in Catalonia after their party won the biggest share of votes in the region's elections. The outcome deals a serious blow to Catalonia's separatists who have governed for more than a decade. Voters in Indian-controlled Kashmir are casting their ballots as the fourth phase of India's parliamentary elections begins. Voting in Kashmir is being held for the first time after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government stripped the Muslim-majority region of its autonomy and brought it under direct rule. Somber ceremonies are taking place across Israel to mark Memorial Day. The annual event commemorates fallen soldiers and victims of attacks in Israel. This year's commemoration is dedicated to the more than 1,200 people killed in Hamas's October 7th terror attacks, as well as the soldiers killed during the war in Gaza. Staying in Israel, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Israel's strategy in Gaza has led to a horrible loss of life for civilians and has failed to neutralize Hamas militants. His comments come as the Israeli military expands its attacks in southern and northern Gaza. Israeli tanks have re-entered parts of the north. The military says Hamas militants who launched the October 7th terror attacks are regrouping in the area.
CNN, Fox.
Israeli tanks heading back into northern Gaza.
That's Fars
The Israeli military had declared victory over Hamas here months ago. Now it says it's gone back to stop the militant group re-establishing control. Palestinians living here in the Jabalia refugee camp just north of Gaza City have been told to evacuate. With the area still devastated from the earlier Israeli operations and new airstrikes raining down, residents are hurrying to get out. But many of those rushing to flee with everything they could take with them said that there was nowhere safe left for them to go.
We left the camp, but we don't know where to go. We don't know where to head. We don't have food, drink, or clothes.
We have to move every day. We move more often than we stay put. Every day we're in a different area. In the north, in the south, in the east. We don't know where to go.
Devon.
Gaza's southernmost city, Rafah, was long considered the safest place left in the Strip. But Israeli forces are now trying to root out Hamas fighters here too. Hundreds of thousands of people have already left the city, according to the Israeli army, while more are still trying to leave. Many of those displaced by the fighting in Rafah have headed north to central Gaza.
Right, let's see what the French are saying here. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's a wee bit different.
With the vote count showing him victory.
So they touch about the Russian stuff. Is that what they kick off with? No. The Ruski stuff.
And has survived a lot of criticism over the years. There's been an awful lot of criticism in the last couple of years.
Comes after Putin had earlier
Did they do a wee fucking broke now, innit?
the regional Catalan election and Spain's Socialist Party.
I wish this worked more smoother. I can't really complain, it's not too shabby. Frog and more frog.
Nears victory in the regional Catalan elections, a result which would see the end of a
Nah, man, I keep getting it and hoping I can go back, but it's not allowing me. It's the Illuminati.
decade of rule by the
Hamara, zoop. Just take it from here then.
Welcome back to World Roundup on France 24. Vladimir Putin has replaced Sergei Shoigu as Russia's defense minister and appointed him as secretary of Russia's National Security Council. It comes after Putin had earlier proposed Andrei Belousov, an economist, recent deputy prime minister and civilian, as the country's new defense minister. Earlier I spoke to former Moscow correspondent Nick Holdsworth, asking him if this was a rebuke of Shoigu.
What the fuck happened there? Come on.
It's hard to say at this stage whether it's a rebuke. All we have to go on really are the comments.
This is the news that will be getting broke on the BBC in a wee second.
Saying that the defence ministry must absolutely be open to innovation, to the introduction of all advanced ideas, to the creation of conditions for economic competitiveness. Now that seems to suggest that they've brought in the civilian economist, Andrei Belousov, to get in charge of the nitty-gritty of the cost of keeping this war in Ukraine running.
Reporting from Washington.
Where was Al Jazeera?
In Ashdod, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government is facing protests for its handling of the war. The day is used to remember soldiers who have been killed in battle.
Fucking hell, man. How fucking mad with valleys do you have to be to like fucking stand in the middle of the street and go constantly shouting at some cunt and they don't answer and then you still fucking holler at the... Honestly, that's straight up fucking valleyed out your tits fucking behaviour. They don't even know they're doing anything. Everything's all right. I started on Sunday, man.
And it's interesting, Benjamin Netanyahu gave a speech earlier in Jerusalem marking Memorial Day where he said, you know, we were set on victory and victory meant, you know, bringing the captives home, but he's not doing that. And this is why you have growing resentment, growing anger at this government, because they see him as not bringing the captives home, pushing ahead with this war really only to prolong his political career. You played those pictures there of Itamar Ben-Gvir, the right-wing minister. You also have Bezalel Smotrich, another right-wing minister who also was booed at another event in Israel today, because people understand that Netanyahu is playing a political game of survival, of his own political survival, at the expense, they say, of bringing the captives home. Because any ceasefire deal, of course, the deal that we've been talking about for so long, which at the moment still remains elusive, comes very much against what those right-wing ministers want. And why are they important? Because they ensure his political survival as Prime Minister. So this is the debate in Israel. And for a long time, Cyril, you've had heads of security, leaks from the cabinet, leaks from the war cabinet over months saying that it's Benjamin Netanyahu who is reluctant to also even make a plan of the day after, something they critically need in order to move forward, and only because of his political survival.
Steph, we're into the 8th month of war, and now we're seeing that the Israeli military is going back into areas that it already conquered, taking casualties again in
beat the paywall last time. Let's see if I can get it on Yahoo News, man. Here we go. Is it? Is it? Yes. I think. Aye, this is it. Nice one. Thank you, Yahoo News. I remember when I first started touching base with the internet when I was at college, in the college library. Yahoo was one of the main fucking... Pretty sure a lot of people probably still have Yahoo email addresses. See my email address, man, like hotmail.co.uk. Sounds like some sort of a porn address or something, doesn't it? But that's one of the old school ones. Anyway, let's read this. Israel sent tanks. Death toll, 35,000. The war, of course, triggered by Hamas-led attack. If you notice what Reuters doesn't do, that the BBC and all that have to do under pressure from the lobby groups inside their countries, they don't say the Hamas terrorists. That's your 1984 newspeak. Anywho, I digress. Israel say... Oh, fuck. It says... Right. Is that Hamas soldiers or Israeli soldiers? I imagine it's going to be Hamas, but it's not written very well. I would argue, but fuck. Right, and here's something you don't hear. Right, you don't hear the BBC, ITN, Fox News, the German Wave, France 24. I don't even think you hear Al Jazeera do this. But you get it in Reuters. Palestinians who were driven from towns and villages in what is now Israel during the 1948. So it's 52, 56, 50, 60, 76 years ago. So you can argue when all this all started. You can argue when this all started. October the 7th, Hamas terrorists, Hamas terrorists, Hamas terrorists, Hamas terrorists, Hamas terrorists. That's my best guess, where perpetual warfare started in this area. Perpetual modern warfare with modern weapons. After World War II, you know, that's the second one after the first one. Then that was the war to end all wars. But here, who am I to point out all these memes and brandings and marketing fucking ploys for war? Not to mention the shit that went on at that time and the fallout of it. Because here's the thing. In 1948, Israel wasn't the only democracy in the Middle East. Still had to slaughter a good few fucking cunts, make up a few good few barriers and boundaries, and then get people in the gang, etc., etc., etc., and slowly build up, let's call it what, let's say a beachfront. Beachhead, but it's more a beachfront. Anywho, that's quite telling. It's always good to compare notes, isn't it? Late on Sunday, captured there. Again, they talk about Hamas. They don't seem to follow the modern day pressure or the pressure groups, or they don't seem to be under pressure from, or they still like to try and give as much impression as they are objective as they possibly can, you know. In the Western world, you would get cancelled, or there would be a cancel campaign for you if you went on the BBC and didn't say Hamas terrorists. There was a protester for Cambridge the other day on, oh shit, and anyway, I'm not watching that. France. There was a protester on the other day.
The ironclad support for Israel, to more and more doubts creeping in the eyes of the American government. Of course, they will say that they still
Sky
have
News
full
presenter
support
was
for Israel's
kept going
defense, but they're starting to draw that line and providing weapons for Israel to go ahead with this offensive in Rafah. Anthony Blinken on the Sunday shows really pushing back and giving some of the sharpest criticism we've heard.
You could just see the presenter getting shouted in his eye. He asked about 3 last questions. All of them was like, well, you can, but newspeak jibber jabber trying to get him, paint him into a corner about the October 7th stuff. So it's like people don't even want to go back 100 years. But in fact, people don't even want to go back when they're saying that they end to Israel, you know, like the end to Israel, but like create
Israel and also of the United States,
call it a secular, international secular state
that would then be left behind,
administrated by every religion in the world that loves that place.
And also from Joe Biden himself.
Just that idea.
He had that phone call with Netanyahu where he said, don't make the same mistakes that we did after 9/11, where we went into Afghanistan, and don't be too hot-headed. That was a warning that he's given to Netanyahu many times. Now, Blinken said that any operation that went ahead in Rafah might show some initial success, but also said that it risks terrible harm to the population without solving the issue of ridding the enclave of Hamas. The other thing that Blinken really is pointing out again is that there is a big difference between what the Israelis see for the future of Gaza and what the Americans see. The Americans, we know, have been working with regional partners, Arab nations.
Well, GG, lucky you get 2 weeks. Heat wave, we get 2 days. I managed to get a wee bit sunburned during those 2 days, so I'm a happy chappy. And now that's your summer ended.
We need to see that too. Now, obviously, Netanyahu has
I'm actually kind of
being dubious about the two-state solution. He said that anything that would enable a power structure within Gaza or any kind of authoritarian force, such as a police force or a military,
because it keeps telling me we're getting thunder and lightning and rain for the next week
between the US and Israel on these points.
A bit down the boat.
Reporting there. Now, Greece's Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis will be meeting his Turkish counterpart later on today.
Thursday.
On the agenda, the signing of MOUs in a host of areas. They will also likely discuss differences over the border in the Aegean and energy exploration in the Mediterranean Sea. Now, Mitsotakis has told Greek media he will raise the issue of the Chora. Now, that's a Greek Orthodox church in Istanbul, which used to be a museum. Erdogan signed a decree that it could be reverted to a mosque, and Muslim services began earlier this month. A socialist in Spain came out on top in elections in Catalonia on Sunday night. The outcome dealing a serious blow to separatist parties in the region. Sunday's result serves as a vindication to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez over his controversial bid to normalize relations with Catalonia and issue pardons for convictions over the drive for independence. Lisa Kamenov found this report.
Did they kill people or something, or was it just they'd done stuff they shouldn't do or something?
Such as the promise of socialist leader Salvador Illa, after securing the largest share of votes in the region's parliamentary election, meaning Catalonia could be led by a party opposed to independence.
Everything is going to change. If Salvador Illa governs, healthcare will change, education will change, hope will return. I'm very happy.
This is good news for Catalonia and also for the Socialist Party of Catalonia, because it seems to be the direction we need in this country to move towards a more stable, less unbalanced, more comfortable situation.
It's a huge blow to the pro-independence parties, who have now lost their decade-long hold on power in Catalonia, 6 years after Carles Puigdemont and the separatist leaders led an independence bid which plunged Spain into a deep political crisis. Pro-independence sentiment in the region of 8 million has weakened, with the public becoming more concerned about social issues.
No, the west of Scotland has the worst weather in the country, man.
The commitment to negotiation to resolve the political
Maybe we all
conflict
just have the worst weather where we say.
Has either not been sufficiently valued by the citizens, or the citizens have considered that now it's up to someone else to lead a new stage.
The Socialist Party claimed 42 seats in Parliament, a first for them in 45 years, but is still short of the 68-seat majority needed to rule. It will have to seek the backing of others like the Republican left ERC from the separatist camp or other left-wing parties. It presents a major victory and
getting sober here, man. I need to play some dead. We need to play the Zionist dead body and baby drinking game.
Make it a key European financial hub post-Brexit. The feather in Macron's cap this year is was launched to the value of new
our number of the day with our business editor Brian Quinn. Brian, take it away.
Hey Don, today's number we're looking at
business news from the European Union.
That is the value of new projects the French government is expecting to be announced at today's Choose France Business Summit being held at the Château de Versailles. Choose France was launched by President Emmanuel Macron in 2018 to draw more foreign investment into the country, part of a bid to rebuild France's industrial base and make it a key European financial hub post-Brexit. The feather in Macron's cap this year is a €4 billion investment by Microsoft, largely targeting artificial intelligence capacity and cloud computing infrastructure. Macron paid a visit to Microsoft headquarters.
Play even the artificial intelligence drinking game as well, quite easy.
The €15 billion overall estimate is a record, but it comes as foreign direct investment is falling in Europe, with analysts blaming high energy costs and a raft of new European regulations, including on emissions disclosure, and crucially data privacy, Don. So we'll be taking a closer look at that in just about an hour's time.
Data privacy
if you want investors to really loosen their purse strings to get them to do it at Versailles. Thank you very much for that, Brian. Brian there, who'll be back with more business news, and those are the top headlines we're covering for you on France 24. Show Jennifer Ben Brahim is joined on set by soprano sensation Liz Davidson. She's been starring as
college and actress is a she's dropped Oscar win for what was the geography album.
It's just native advertising. It's just selling you shit.
So on Christmas Eve, everyone's to see you for later.
People will dress it up as it's the leftist Illuminati Satanists and all that. Just people selling you shit. And that's what all the crackpot youngins are into nowadays. And when you were young, probably you were into what old people would have defined as crazy crackpot shit.
Dystopian.
Oh, fuck, right. I think
You
that's
also
the
just
death
finished
of the news
stint
on...
at the Met playing Salome, so...
Don't know. Let's see what thingies gremlins are talking about today. Oh, Sunak's speech. Boom shakalaka. Right, and by the power of Grayskull.
To match our competitors, world-class cancer version. Reject.
Is this his last gasp attempt?
Days.
Does it hear in preview? No, it doesn't he?
Our country stands, and we invent history. Set Britain, or Sunak versus...
No, they've been the top of it ever, wouldn't it?
Now. Yeah, another attempt
says he wants to do, but he is to be seen as the
Pre-election
person who can offer
pitch,
immigration and also of Labour say that
a couple of defections.
Excited to be back.
One of his MPs,
Well, what the lady was a stiff Conservatives
What
do you say? What?
trying
Hannah,
to...
sorry to interrupt. Well, let's just go straight to listening to the Prime Minister.
Warm welcome and your superb leadership of Policy Exchange. As you said, as a proud alumnus, I'm truly delighted to be back. Now, at some point
he's
in the second half of
Illuminati.
this year, we will all go to the polls and make a choice. Not just about Conservatives versus Labour, or Sunak versus Starmer. It will be a choice between the future and the past. Now, I remain confident that my party can prevail, not because of our record alone, but because we will be the only party really talking about the future. And not with vague, lofty platitudes, but with bold ideas and a clear plan that can change our society.
He's not even got courage in his own convictions and his voice, ain't you know?
Pride in our country. Now, I feel a profound sense of urgency because more will
You don't
change in
sound
the
it,
next
mate.
5 years.
That sounds like a beaten man.
I'm convinced that the next few years will be some of the most dangerous, yet the most
Oh my
transformational.
god, that does. It
our
sounds.
country
That
has
really
ever
does. I'm not just saying that for
So
a
the question
face.
we face today is this: Who has
I've
the
seen
clear
them. I've
plan
heard him
and bold
sounding more
ideas
convinced than
to
his own
deliver a
bullshit in the
secure
past.
future for you and your family? The dangers that threaten our country are real. They're increasing in number. An axis of authoritarian states like Russia, Iran, North Korea and China.
The
is
UK,
working
America,
together to
France,
undermine us and our
Germany,
values.
the
War has
EU.
returned to Europe, with our NATO allies warning that if Putin succeeds in Ukraine, they might be next. War rages too in the Middle East, as Israel defends itself, not only against the terrorists of Hamas, but a barrage of missiles fired for the first time directly
The
from
terrorists of Hamas.
Right
Oh,
now
in
in
Iran.
Africa, conflicts are being fought in 18 different
Way down in
and Putin's recklessness
Africa.
has taken us closer to a dangerous nuclear escalation than at any point since the Cuban Missile Crisis. But these are not faraway problems. Iranian proxies are firing on British ships in the Red Sea, disrupting goods destined for our high street. Here at home, China has conducted
IKEA
cyber
stuff.
targeting of our democratically
That
elected
was the end of the
MPs.
line. I
Russia
wanted
has
to nuke
poisoned
Iran as soon
with
as I
chemical
couldn't get a
weapons.
fucking plastic
And when
bit of shit
Putin cut
out
off the
of
gas
IKEA.
supplies, it had a
Right,
devastating
launch the
impact on
nukes.
people's lives and threatened
I
our
can't get my
energy.
deck chair in fucking a week.
And in this world of greater conflict and danger,
And the fucking sun's out. I need my plastic deck chair shit.
now displaced
The
globally.
IKEA.
countries like Russia
I don't get
are
my cheap
weaponising
IKEA shit.
immigration
I'm no
for their own
happy.
ends. And criminal
Fucking
gangs
nuke them now.
finding new routes to across European borders. Illegal migration is placing an intolerable strain on our security and our
I'll
sense of
pack in my
fairness.
bag. Oh, I'll
And
pack
unless
in my
we
bag,
act now
right.
and act
I
boldly,
get it.
this problem is only going to grow. Extremists are also
pack in my
exploiting
bag.
these global conflicts to divide us. People are abusing our liberal democratic
Is she
values,
not sacked?
the freedom of speech, right to protest, to intimidate, threaten, and assault others, to sing anti-Semitic chants on our streets and our university campuses.
Oh my god, man. Mate, fucking move to fucking Israel if you're
In a
more.
divisive, ideological attempt to set Britain against Britain.
Britain against Britain, we're talking about fucking Israel when I'm using the anti-Semitic things for the ship has sailed, buddy.
Vocal and
It's
aggressive
meaningless now.
are trying to impose their views on the rest of us. They're trying to
Like
make
the
it
view
morally
like that
unacceptable
chant is
to believe
anti-Semitic.
something different
You
and
are
undermine
imposing
people's
on us
confidence
right
and
now,
pride
you
in our
fucking
own
Romulan
history and
little
identity.
prick.
Scottish nationalists are even trying to tear our United Kingdom apart. But for all the dangers ahead, few are felt more acutely than people's sense of financial insecurity. We've been pounded by a series of once-in-a-generation shocks, the worst international financial crisis since the Great Depression in the 1930s, the first global pandemic
wasn't
since
me,
the
governor.
Spanish flu in 1918, the biggest energy shock since the 1970s. Global forces.
The
Yet they are
smallest
hitting
Prime
our living
Minister
standards here at home.
since
We must be
Napoleon.
prepared strategically, economically, with robust plans and greater national resilience to meet this time of instability with strength. And people's sense of insecurity is only heightened by the fears about new technologies like AI.
AI. Oh my fucking lord!
80% of jobs
Fucking Romulan fuck, shut up about this fake ass motherfucking AI pish.
Pandemics or nuclear war. And when children are exposed to bullying, sexualized content, or even self-harm online.
Yep. AI. We need to control the AI and the algos.
Understands these dangers.
Yep.
Because
don't believe anything. Just let's control your algos. It's almost like allowing the government to go in and tell you what books you can and cannot read. In fact, that's exactly what it's like. And they go, no, you can't let the kids read these books. This book tells you that a kid died in a wardrobe the other day. So we need to ban the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. There's too many kids locking themselves into wardrobes like they were going to fucking Narnia.
They'll accelerate human progress by complementing what we do, speeding up the discovery of new ideas, and by assisting almost every aspect of human life. Think of the investment they will bring, the jobs they'll create, and the increase in all our living standards that they'll deliver. Credible estimates suggest AI alone could double our productivity in the next decade.
Is he talking about AI as if it's a fucking being? Hi there, Mr. AI. Hi, this is my friend AI. Nice to meet you. Yes, nice to meet you. Yes, just imagine just imagine the sun shining out my friend's arsehole. Just imagine. Some say he might be able to be able to do 2 blowjobs at once. Double our productivity. It might make us more productive slaves. Yes, granted, you will need to get chipped and have national ID cards, and we will round you up if you're illegal or radical and ship you up to fucking shitholes around the world. Yes, granted, yes, but the cock slaves that we'll still have here in UK will be doubly productive because they'll have a fucking... My lord. I'm tuned to the moon, man. I can't watch this shit without thinking, what the fuck is this? Something wrong with me. Something wrong with me. I cannot believe this is the Prime Minister of the UK sitting up there going, yeah, something. Some might say, yeah. Some might say, hey, I will double my blowjob productivity. Some might say, hey, I will be able to flip too many McDonald's burgers. Some might say, sorry, man, I'm being disrespectful to your Prime Minister. Anybody and every fucking idiot that put an X in the box. Even if you voted for fucking, I don't know, Tommy Robinson, the Raven Lunatic Party, George Galloway, any cunt that put the signature of that idiot to create a social contract with these institutions, this is what the institution offers you up, and this is the shit you get. These are the jobby suppers that you have to choose from.
And in doing...
And if we don't like it, you'll get treated like a leper, like George Galloway, or... even if it's even more popular than that, just like we've seen happens in Germany, we brand you a bunch of nutballs, even though you're the second biggest party in the country. We brand you a bunch of radicals, then we can actually spy and surveil you, just call you Chinese and Russian spies, because you don't fucking toe the party line, and we'll kick you out. Get it? Got it? Good. Now play the motherfucking game. Get on board with this Romulan or a melted welly boot. The douchebag or the turd sandwich. Get with the programme.
So help us create a world of less suffering, more freedom, choice, and opportunity. Just imagine every child in school with their own personalised tutor.
Imagine all the people in AI double productivity. Imagine there's no genders. We're all peeing in the sink. Two blowjobs at once. And no religion too. Yoo-hoo! Wait, hold on, man. This guy's fucking giving me ideas for us. Oh, fuck, John Lennon. Bloody to crack that one.
And every teacher free to spend more time personally developing each student.
Kumbaya, every teacher free. They didn't have to go to work today, so they're teaching little Johnny about being a Ken doll from the power of fucking their webcam. Fuck this human interaction shit. Just fucking AI. Then we'll get the AI teachers. And then the Borg will be complete. Aye, that's what we need, AI teaching kids. In fact, that's already fucking happened. The Borg is here, we shall assimilate.
New frontiers in medical diagnostics.
Yes, new frontiers. It's almost like going and fucking slaughtering native people and stealing their shit all over again. Oh, great old times. Remember the time of new frontiers? Yes, Shunak, I'm pretty sure some of your fucking kin was slaughtered back in the day till you bent over and let the fucking British Empire fuck you up your arsehole, and then you assimilated to the Borg. Token brown man.
A single picture of your eyes can not only detect blindness, but predict other diseases like heart attacks or Parkinson's.
Whoa! AI's now Mystic fucking Meg! Hold on, the camera is saying Parkinson's a shaky one, isn't it? I think so. I hope so, or this joke isn't funny. I'm pretty sure people with Parkinson's still have a sense of humour. So the AI can see you've got Parkinson's. Imagine. Nah, he's not a fucking Romulan, man. This guy's a cyborg, man. Imagine there's no humans.
And counterintuitive as it may seem, throughout human history.
What? Counterintuitive? What are you talking about, man? More machines means better for us? Not needing us is better.
The greatest breakthroughs in science and learning have so often come at the moments of greatest danger. The first electronic digital computers were developed by British codebreakers in the Second World War.
Your first hard on when you're in the bath. What the fuck is this? Bing, bing, bing, bing, bing, bing. Best scientific discovery in the world.
Solar technology went from powering pocket calculators to a viable commercial technology following the energy crisis.
Just don't tell China, because they get the cheapest solar panel shit in the world, motherfucker. So shh.
1970s. The fastest development and deployment of a vaccine in history came during the COVID pandemic.
Which has been took off the
market.
market.
So it is incumbent upon us to make this a period not just of great danger, but great progress too.
And remember folks, long COVID is a real thing. It's a coincidence that long COVID, there's no correlation here, there's no correlation. It's a coincidence that long COVID happens to people that took the vaccine. It's just a coincidence.
That's why we launched a bold plan to make science and technology our new national purpose. We're rightly proud of Britain's spirit of discovery and entrepreneurship that made us the leading country in the Industrial Revolution. But we can be just as proud, just as confident, just as optimistic about our future and our prospects to lead again in this new industrial age. And doing so will enrich our lives and create good, well-paid jobs in the growth industries of the future here at home. At the same time, new and fast-growing economic superpowers like India, Indonesia, and Nigeria are significantly reshaping the global economy. And just as this ever more interconnected world creates new dangers, it also creates new possibilities. The United Kingdom is uniquely
if you care enough for the Conservatives,
trading, maritime
make a better place
has given
for
the opportunity for us to
Sunak and me.
and we invent, discover and produce new products and services that the world wants to buy.
Make
From
it a
aircraft wings in
better
Filton
place
to financial services in Glasgow,
for
to incredible
Sunak
cultural
and
exports like film,
me
music and
and the
TV, or
entire
sports like the
conservative
Premier League.
race. There's
Everywhere
a
from rural Kenya to the cityscapes of South Korea,
if we
people stay up
care
at
enough for
all
the
times of the day and night
conservatives,
to watch
make
their
it a
favourite
better place for
It's no wonder that Brexit Britain
Sunak
has leapt
and
above
me.
France, Japan and the Netherlands to become the world's fourth biggest
That's a
exporter.
#1 fucking
And the more
hit.
we export, the better our businesses will do, the more jobs we'll create, the more wealth we'll generate right across our country. So this is the opportunity before us. A world transformed by technological progress.
He genuinely
Huge
doesn't
global
believe he's
markets
on push.
hungry for new talent, goods and services.
Your side
And you
there.
can see it all around us. Two brothers from Merseyside sat around their kitchen table and
Hey,
built Castor.
seriously, you can hear his lack of enthusiasm,
Taking on
can't you? Or
global
is it just
giants
me?
like Nike and Adidas. Their kit now worn by Red Bull Formula One and Bayer Leverkusen. British companies and workers right across the country are pioneering offshore wind and exporting it around the world.
Aye,
Now
for
already
your
we've built
fucking
the world's
hot air,
first
mate.
floating offshore wind farm. And our innovations have helped reduce the cost of wind energy by around 2/3 and increase the size of the turbines to the equivalent of the Eiffel Tower with blades bigger.
Hold on, did he just say increase the fucking size of my turbines? Or am I hearing what I want to hear? Maybe I might just be hearing what I want to hear. Nevertheless, right to question it.
Than Big Ben. And you can see the
Man, he's
opportunity
got
to in
Big
healthcare,
Ben into it,
giving
he's got
people
Red
longer,
Bull into
healthier
it, he's got
lives.
Bayer
In
Leverkusen.
Denmark,
Talk about trying
Novo
to ride
Nordisk
on
created the
fucking...
Ozempic drug,
I'm
which
a
is not
feeling
only
politician!
helping to tackle chronic
Red Bull!
disease globally,
Rangers!
but
Red Bull!
single-handedly
No, I can't, in fact,
grew
don't shout about
Denmark's
Rangers and no
entire
Sunak.
economy last year.
Red Bull! Bayer
all this
Leverkusen! Big Ben!
should show us
The
that while this is
Moon!
one of the most dangerous
McDonald's!
periods we've ever known,
Kentucky Fried Chicken
it
and a
will
Pizza
also be
Hut
one
mix!
of the most transformational. And if we make the right choices, if we have a bold enough vision, then we should feel confidence, pride, and optimism that Britain's future is secure. So my point is this. Our country stands at a crossroads. Over the next few years, from our democracy to our society to our economy to the hardest questions of war and peace, almost every aspect of our lives is going to change. And how we act in the face of those changes, not only to keep people safe and secure, but to realise the opportunities too, will determine whether or not Britain will succeed in the years to come. And there is an important choice facing the country. Because despite having 14 years with nothing to do but think about the future, Labour have almost nothing to say about it. No plans for our border, no plans for our energy security, no plans for our economy either. And no principles either. Keir Starmer's gone from embracing Jeremy Corbyn to Natalie Elphicke, all in the cynical pursuit of power at any price.
He really
So Labour have no ideas. What they did have, they've U-turned on. They have just one thing, a calculation that they can make you feel so bad about your country that you won't have the energy to ask what they might do with the incredible power that they seek to yield. Now, I'm not saying that the past doesn't matter. I know people are feeling anxious and uncertain, that their sense of confidence and pride in this country has been knocked. I understand that. I accept it, and I want to change it. But what I cannot accept is Labour's idea that all the worries you have are because of 14 years of Conservative government. That all you need to do is change the people in office and these problems will magically disappear. It's just not true. In the last 14 years,
Wasn't me, Governor?
we've made progress in the most difficult conditions any governments have faced since the Second World War. A world-leading economy. We've seen the third highest growth rate in the G7 and created 4 million jobs, 800 a day. We took difficult decisions to restore our country's financial security and control national debt.
There's
And that
800
allowed
new
us to
Just Eat
support the country
drivers
through
every
COVID,
single day.
deliver the fastest vaccine rollout,
Every one of them called
provide
Mohammed.
record funding to the NHS, and protect pensions with the triple lock. We've reformed welfare by capping benefits and introducing universal credit to help people into work. We've reduced absolute poverty, pensioner poverty, child poverty. We've cut carbon emissions by a third, maintained our position as NATO's second biggest defence power, halved violent and neighbourhood crime, and improved standards in our schools with English school children, not just the best readers in the UK, but in the Western world. We've legislated for equal marriage, and it is now not even surprising for people from ethnically diverse backgrounds to lead Scotland, Wales, and the United Kingdom. And the economy now decisively has momentum. Inflation down from over 11% to 3%. Wages rising faster than prices. And in the first quarter of this year, we grew faster than France, Germany, Japan, Italy, and even America. The plan is working, so we must stick to it and not go back to square one. And when Labour ignores the achievements of the last 14 years, or try to reduce the last 14 years to 49 days, remember what they're actually doing is trying to distract you from the thing that matters most, the future. Now I'm clear-eyed enough to admit that, yes, maybe they can depress their way to victory, with all their talk of doom loops and gaslighting and scaremongering about pensions. But I don't think it will work. Because at heart, we're a nation of optimists. We're not blind to the challenges or threats that we face. We just have an innate belief
I still live in
that
hope
whatever
we
they
can
are,
gather
we can
people up
overcome
based on a demographic and send them a random shit home from the world.
For you and your
I live in hope.
So let me tell you more about my vision for how I would lead this country through this time of danger and transformation. The highest priority of a Conservative government is to keep our country safe. We've proudly taken the generational decision to increase defence spending to a new baseline of 2.5% of GDP by 2030. Yet Labour have refused to match our pledge. Keir Starmer supported a former Labour leader who wanted to abolish the army and withdraw from NATO. And Labour's current deputy leader, shadow foreign secretary, and many others voted against our nuclear deterrent, the ultimate guarantor of our security. Now, Labour want to pretend that this is all history.
They did say they can depress them.
But it's
they can
not.
try. I think it was.
And
They can try and depress
because the defence of our
themselves
country
to their way of victory
and
by
our
they're talking about
requires seriousness of
their
purpose,
stick is
moral
talking about all the
clarity,
bad stuff
and a
rather
willingness
than
to
and
make
it's
big
been
choices and
rather
sacrifices
focusing
elsewhere
on the
to
good
fund
stuff
it.
to come. But he's
Either
trying to
you
focus
believe
on the
the
new, the
world is more
future.
dangerous, or you don't. Either you have the strength to lead,
It's mental, isn't it?
or you don't. And yes, the global displacement of 100 million people is a new and defining challenge of our age. But we can and will protect ourselves against illegal migration. Because only we Conservatives have the strength to challenge conventions and do something different about it. Tinkering just won't work. That's why we're pioneering the Rwanda scheme. And so when people see that if they come here illegally, they will be swiftly detained and removed, they will be deterred from making that perilous journey, stopping the boats and saving thousands of lives.
Did he just say they're just the turds? I'm pretty sure he called brown people in boats. He just said they're just the turds that are fucking up poor bowl. That's what he said. Anyway, I don't want to put words in his mouth or words in your head, but listen for it. I'm pretty sure he called the brown people in boats. They're just the turds.
The strength to challenge conventions and do something different about it. Tinkering just won't work. That's why we're pioneering the Rwanda scheme. And so when people see that if they come here illegally, they will be swiftly detained and removed, they will be deterred from making that...
They're just the turds. See? They're just the turds.
...that perilous journey, stopping the boats and saving thousands of...
They're just the turds making that perilous journey. Need to stop the boats to save the turds.
...of lives. Now, I know that our international...
Or was it AI?
So there may be flashpoints ahead with the ECHR. And if the Strasbourg court make me choose between the ECHR and this country's security, I will choose our country's security every single time.
Sieg Heil, the Fatherland!
And nor will I ever compromise
Is that no...
on defending
See,
our
up
values,
here we used to call Jipples
our history,
tinkers.
our way of life, against those who seek to undermine them. I am unapologetically
travelling
proud
folk.
of who we are. And under my leadership, ours will be a country where people can disagree in good faith, but where they must do so with respect and decency for others. A country where the benefits of belonging to our union are self-evident to the overwhelming majority
You'll see anybody
of our
that's
people.
Glaswegian.
A country where we strengthen and protect the
dictionary.
greatest institution of all.
Any of the crazy
the
funny sayings we've got.
Better
up here,
protect
man.
children from the harms of the online and offline worlds, and do more to protect single-sex spaces. A country where we celebrate the small acts of kindness.
Do more to protect single-sex spaces. What the fucking... It's definitely tinkering with everybody's boys. So this is his pre-election
that bind our
speech.
Society together, and where we actively work to rebuild the civic involvement and pride that have always formed part of our distinctive national culture.
And let's be
a country
honest,
where we
it's
honour
a pile of
those
shite,
prepared
isn't
to
it?
pay the highest price for our freedoms, as we make the best place in the world to be a veteran here at home. And a country where we properly respect the older generation. They've contributed all their lives. So whatever the triple lock costs, it's morally right to give older people dignity and comfort in retirement. But as well as strengthening our national security and restoring pride in our national culture, we'll also protect you from the dangers of a more unstable world by giving you greater peace of mind over your financial security.
You just say that what will protect us from a moron world.
People have been struggling to make ends meet. I know that. In the last few years, you've seen rising energy bills, mortgage rates, the cost of the weekly shop.
Did you read it in the newspaper?
And I hope have shown that through my time in office, that from furlough to support with your energy bills, the government I lead will always be there for you. But that's only possible if we take the tough decisions to strengthen the country's finances and control debt. And you can trust me to do that. When I stood for the leadership of my party, and my opponent's policies imperiled our financial strength, I was sooner prepared to lose than abandon what I believe so deeply is right for our country. I feel the same conviction about net zero. In a more unstable world where dictators like Putin have held us to ransom over energy prices, I reject the ideological zeal of those who want us to adopt policies that go further, faster than any other country, no matter what the cost or disruption to people's lives. That's exactly Labour's approach.
Killing the world.
They act like a pressure group, not a would-be government. And the Conservatives will govern in the national interest, leading us to net zero in a serious, hard-headed way that prioritises our nation's energy security and the financial security of hard-working families. Now, but even as we strengthen our security and our sense of pride and confidence in ourselves, I also feel a sense of urgency about readying our country to succeed in a world transformed. And that starts by giving all our young people, wherever they live, whatever their background, the skills and the knowledge to succeed. Building on the success of the last 14 years, we will create a truly world-class education system. The Advanced British Standard is the most far-reaching reform to education for 16 to 18-year-olds in a generation. We're tearing down the artificial barriers between technical and academic education, increasing children's time in the classroom, studying a greater breadth of subjects to match our competitors, and unapologetically saying that every single child must leave school not just literate, but numerate as well. Now, I know that this will not win universal acclaim, but maths will be fundamental to our children's life chances in this new technological age. And it is our duty to give them those skills. And more, we'll end rip-off degrees and massively expand the number of apprenticeships, because a degree is not the only path to success in the modern economy. And we'll make sure that everyone has the funding they need to retrain or learn new skills at any point in their lives, because in the future, education won't stop when you walk out of the school gates. But for Britain to finish first in today's world, we don't just need the skills to succeed, We need to create a dynamic, innovative economy fueled by technological progress so we lead in the industries of the future and help you and your family become wealthier and more economically secure. And the government I lead is creating the conditions for a new British dynamism by investing in the new infrastructure of the future, not just roads, railways and buses, but gigabit broadband, research and development, computing power, by helping to create hundreds of thousands of good, secure, well-paid, highly skilled jobs that will level up opportunity right across the country. And yes, by taking the necessary decisions to build the right homes in the right places to support those jobs. But true British dynamism won't come from the state alone. It will come from you. It will come from the ingenuity and creativity of the British people, given the support, the opportunities and the rewards to have, pursue and realise big ambitions. If you have a brilliant idea, I want you to build it. If you're passionate about solving a problem, I want you to pursue it. And if you simply want to set up on your own, I want you to get out there and do it. Because you won't find the future written in a slide deck in a Whitehall Quango. You'll find it out there in our country. And so the government I lead will create the conditions for people themselves to try, to build, to invent. Yes, sometimes to fail, but more often to succeed. That's why we're cutting taxes directly on investment. It's why we're cutting taxes to encourage innovation, and it's why we're seizing the freedom and the flexibility of Brexit. Because so often the EU's default approach was top-down precautionary regulation, whereas we in the UK now have the chance to be more agile, so that rather than stifling innovation and growth, we encourage it. In everything from financial services to agriculture, from healthcare to house building. And above all, we will reward hard work. Because you don't get anywhere in life without hard work. So we're making the tax system simpler, fairer and more rewarding, cutting national insurance by £900 for the average worker, alongside increasing the state pension by £900 this year. We're raising the national living wage to end low pay.
Free jelly babies for babies.
And we're reforming welfare to make sure that work always pays and our safety net is fair to those who
free blowjobs for the sex pests.
Pay for it. Not least because giving people support to get off welfare and into work gives them purpose, dignity and hope. And it is also the only sustainable way to cut legal migration. So a world-class education system, a dynamic, innovative economy, hard work valued and rewarded. That's how Britain will succeed in the future. That's how we'll grow the economy. Find missing people.
Right.
With finally,
he's going to give everything to everybody.
And fundamentally change what it will mean for our children and grandchildren to hear the word cancer. So today...
She's still harping on. This is live, so...
and say that it's time for change.
Pause, but... No.
Great stuff. Thanks so much for summarising those key takeaways from that Rishi Sunak speech, which will continue to be the focus on Sky News today at the top of the next hour with Jane Secker, of course, the Prime Minister, overrunning a little bit there, wrapping up his speech
I think maybe there must be a certain limit on the server.
Exchange. A broad speech it was, as Tamara just outlined. More reaction and analysis with Jane Secker and Beth Rigby, who's in the room posing a question there to the Prime Minister. That's up next here on Sky News.
That's my best guess. Is this guy still prattling on? No. Pledges bold ideas. What are these bold ideas? Shushak. Ooh, what's part of the country tomorrow? No, something that scams. Right. Let's see. Let's see if Sky News is going to talk about Rafah, Gaza. We're just going to completely blank it.
Hello, you're watching Sky News Today with me, Jane Secker. It's 12 o'clock. These are the headlines. The Prime Minister lays out his plan to lead the UK through what he says is an increasingly dangerous world.
Or that's what Polish
An
people
axis
call
of authoritarian states like
willies
Russia,
and all that,
Iran, North Korea and China is working together to undermine us and our values.
Calls for a new maternity commissioner after a landmark inquiry into birth trauma in the UK finds shockingly poor quality in maternity care.
Nice, guys.
Riot police move in on thousands of protesters.
Look at the organised ones right in the middle.
Georgia, as they demonstrate against new Kremlin-style
They're the ones orchestrating all that violence.
Three men are to appear in court today, charged with assisting the Hong Kong intelligence service. And
it goes to Sarah Lancashire.
Happy Valley is among the top winners as stars celebrate TV's biggest honours at the BAFTA Awards in London.
Pretty sure she used to be in Corey.
Hello, good afternoon. Rishi Sunak has outlined why he thinks
Gaza's
he's
just
the best person to
disappeared,
lead the UK through what he's described as an increasingly dangerous world. In a speech in London, the Prime Minister set out the challenges he said were posed by an axis of authoritarian states, including Russia, China, Iran and North Korea, highlighting wars in Ukraine and the Middle East and the aftermath of the COVID pandemic. Rishi Sunak said that the UK stands at a crossroads. Let's listen to some.
What war would that be you're talking about, Hen? The one that he's just refusing to even say the word of this morning. That is some straight up fucking Orwellian crap there, man.
Versus Starmer. It will be a choice between the future and the past. Now, I remain confident that my party can prevail, not because of our record alone, but because we will be the only party really talking about the future. And not with vague, lofty platitudes, but with bold ideas and a clear plan that can change our society for the better and restore people's confidence.
We've just, sorry, I've just subjected you to that push. So, Jazeera.
Now we have left. We don't know where to
Pretty
go.
sure this
We
will
are
be the
running
same
in the
stuff
streets. I
a
saw it
hour
with
ago,
my own
more or
eyes. I
less.
saw the tank and the bulldozer. It is on that street.
We'll bring in our correspondent Tariq Abu Azzoum joining us from Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. So the Israelis order yet another forced evacuation of medical staff from the Kuwaiti hospital in Rafah. Tariq, what are you hearing about the situation there?
Ooh, that's new, is it? Is this live? Aye, that is live.
Well, in fact, the Israeli military, Dareen, is continuing to passing more controversial evacuation orders, not only for civilians, but for the medical teams who are responsible for providing medical treatment for Palestinians in Rafah district. Now, as we have been hearing from doctors on the ground, they've been told to flee because the hospital will no longer be a safe place for them. Even they have been calling for an international protection for all the medics inside the hospital, as the director of the hospital has been appealing for the international community to make an immediate medical intervention in order to guarantee the safety of those medical workers and to avoid the repeating scenario of a Shifa hospital to happen again with Al-Kuwaiti hospital in the central areas of Rafah. But until now, the hospital is ongoing with its medical operations, providing medical treatment, as confrontations and battles are still ongoing in the eastern portion of the city there, as we have been seeing more videos
Zionist dead body and baby drinking
from the
game,
battle zone about the ongoing confrontations and how military tanks have been attacked by Palestinian fighters, as the Israeli military continue to bound residential areas without till now any kind of lit-up in fighting, despite the Israeli previous description of the operation to be completely limited.
So, Tariq, the people who are forced to evacuate, where do they go to? Because Al-Mawasi, where they're told to go, is overcrowded. Khan Yunis, pretty much destroyed. What options do they have?
Remarkably notable how different it is from, as I said.
Well, in fact, all civilians that they have been starting to flee from Rafah are faced by completely insurmountable challenges represented in finding shelters, food to eat, and even water to use for even hygiene facilities that no longer exist on the coastal line of the Gaza Strip. Now, people have been told to go to Al-Mawasi, which is a very tiny strip of land that
I should be here tomorrow at 5 to 9. I'll try to do it at 5 to 9. Let me just see. Right, so the vote, if there's anybody that's not voted and wants to vote, get it done in the next couple of seconds and I will finish the vote. So, aye, that's me done 3 hours, man, just watching the news in the morning. Coffee, vape, some news, can't whack it. But see if I'm actually in the mood to get slaughtered in the that early in the morning one day, and it could happen. It's going to be the first time. I might can you hold a pint of vodka on at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I might play the drinking game, the Zionist dead baby and body drinking game. I think it's hilarious, but people don't see it as a joke. I think it's like I'm sitting there like, I'm on the dead bodies. I think it's self-evident. So there's the vote. The poll: is the current Gaza war the most broadcasted genocide in history? Not the only one, right? I'm pretty sure you could argue a lot. The Iraq War, for me, I don't know for other people, was definitely one of them. Whether you see that as a genocide or not, there's patata. The good few genocides that's happened in Africa, pretty sure there's video footage of that stuff. But anyway, each their own. So the scores on the doors are 26 votes. Good amount. 69% says yes. 23% says no. 8% says not sure. And the kind of point it was making is just the world in which we now stay. All of us, if not most, tuned to our moons on this stuff. Our window-licking devices. If not, you've got the 24-hour news on your TV. My mum's an old lady, and I'll use her as an example. If she does no watching the news, she's watching the right stuff. Can't escape it. Some of the messaging. If she's not watching the right stuff, she'll like to stick on This Morning or stuff like that, you know. So, and here in the UK, typically there is only like 3 genres of press on the majority of the media. The newspapers, right? They have their own doohickeys, and then you've got BBC, ITN, and Sky News. And outside that, you've got Reuters and AP. And the other, let's see what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to look at the largest news agencies in the world and have a look at them all. And that's where that's where most, if not all, the news stories come from. The BBC, and it's like the German Wave, the French 24, Fox, etc. will get their news from, spin what's in Reuters for their own reasons, selectively report it, elaborate, go out and get fucking videotape pieces, if you get me, like heartstrings, you know, the dead baby with the wooden leg and glass eye kind of thing. There's the mother, there's the father. Oh, now buy this burger, it will save the planet. Like, what? Anyway, so tune in every morning, guys and girls. At 5 to 9 I'll try and start, so I can try and get all the streams sorted, which, as you see, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And it's good. It's a good way to see what you are getting told to speak about, regardless of where you get what talking head or news you subscribe to. And here's a point as well. Not only are the BBC, Al Jazeera, and that sometimes they have boots on the ground, especially the larger channels with reporters, but the larger news agencies, like the Russian one that was touching base with Reuters, AP's French, I think, and Reuters, I think that's either American or British, I can't remember, but I'll do my due diligence for everybody tomorrow. Anyway, time's marching on, so make sure you sub bell up, stick a wee thumbs up if you enjoy it. I'll have that because I work nights. I can't think of any others. People didn't even have TVs in World War II. Well, you know what? I don't know if this is folklore or internet bullshit, right? Like, television was kind of invented by World War... Well, film was obviously invented around World War II, but they hadn't figured out how to get it into everybody's house at that point. But the Germans had a project called the Telefunken, and that it never came to fruition because of the thing called the war and all that. But they had an idea of getting what's now known as a television into everybody's house. And now, don't quote me, well, check it out, man. I've never, it's never something I've really checked out. Just heard it in a grapevine, but never done my due diligence over it. So thanks everybody, if you did appreciate that, stick a wee thumbs up, tune out every morning for your day. If you like politics, but you're sick of the tits, then watch Daily PoliTITS to get your daily fix. Get it, got it, good. Get cheese, no cats or cheese were harmed in this film.
Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.